order. Today is a special called workshop meeting of the Commissioners Court of Hood County, Texas. Today is Friday, July the 25th, 2025. It's 9 a.m. and we're in the central jury room of the Ralph H. Walton Jr. Justice Center at 1200 West Pearl Street in good old Granbury, Texas. I'd like to, first of all, we're going to do the invitation, and we're going to call on Mr. Richard Hayes to do the invocation.
Our gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord, for the many blessings you've given to us. That include the blessings of living in this great nation and this great county. Father, we're grateful for the dedicated public servants, be they elected officials, or our law enforcement officers, or our first responders, who are always there to take care of our community. We pray, Father, for your blessings upon them, that you grant them with wisdom and patience and kindness and forbearance. Father, we thank you for sending your Son, Jesus Christ, and know that whatever we do, we bring glory to him. In your Son, Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I pledge to the great state of Texas. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
All right. Now, due to some prior commitments, we're going to change up the agenda here a little bit, and we're going to take item number 2 first, and we're going to discuss and receive public comment on the Master Thoroughfare Plan and jail expansion and preparation for potential road and jail bond election. And we have with us today Mr. John Poster, and we got the people here from TNP that working very well with us. But welcome, Mr. John Poster.
Judge, Commissioners, thank you today. It went away. Okay, sorry. She told me to be patient, so I'll be patient. So what we're going to go over today is just a little background on why we're even looking at a bond program, what your growth rate's been lately, and then once we get through the where we're at on what we've picked up from our communities, then at some point we'll move over to the financials, and we'll let the professionals start talking on that side of it. Okay, so this is we've been working with the communities within the county to identify those projects that are going to be considered for this bond program. What we're trying to do is make sure that we have a set of projects that meets the needs of the county, both from an economic development standpoint, a mobility standpoint, and we want to try to get as much input from the public as possible on what they want us to see and do. Okay, so just as part of the history and why the county is looking at this, a lot of the roads that we're looking at and y'all been working on over the time when working with City of Granbury these are roads that have been built in the 60s and 70s. A lot of those roads were built for more of a farm, rural setting, and obviously with the growth that this county is experiencing, those roads are being used for more commercial and residential uses. So we're looking at those types of issues, the increased traffic here, the growth rates of the county, and then just we need to address congestion, safety, and air quality issues. So I went and did some research on Hood County, and the population right now is estimated somewhere a little north of 70,000. The growth rate last year was 2%, but the Hood County is the 54th largest county in the state of Texas out of 254. And since 2010, the population growth in Hood County has gone up by 37%. So I did a little bit more looking at this, and from 2000 to 2024, they had an average rate per year of about 3%. But after COVID, the population increase in this area was up by 9%. And to put that in perspective, nationwide, population growth was barely over 1. So we've had a lot of things happen since 2020 in Hood County. Okay, so why are we even looking at roads that are on the state system? And we get that a lot. You know, these are state roads. Why is the county getting involved? And the reason is that the state roads carry the majority of the traffic through any county that they find themselves in. The reason the counties are stepping up to address their own destiny, for lack of a better word, is because federal funding, both at the state level and the federal level, are having a difficult time keeping up with the demand. There's our gas tax, and I think I might have put that, yeah, it's there. So 1994 was the last time the gas tax had been adjusted. So 38 cents is what you pay per gallon. Doesn't matter if it's $4 a gallon or $2 a gallon, you're paying 38 cents in gas tax. And if you do your calculations on driving 15,000 miles a year and getting 20 miles to the gallon, that's only in hundreds of dollars a year that people pay in. And that doesn't even cover, 50 feet of concrete. So gas tax hasn't been raised. Fuel efficiency or reducing the money going into the transportation funding pool. And most importantly, you're in an MPO area where there are local match requirements for getting funds from your MPO and your state funding categories. You're part of the Fort Worth District, as you know. There are 25 districts statewide, and they all have their own issues that they have to address. So any county within that district that steps up and tries to assist the state usually ends up getting their attention. And historically, and if this bond program moves forward similar to the other bond programs we've done, right now we're looking at about $4 in return for every dollar we spend. And I anticipate, to the extent that we do more on-system roads than off, that percentage will go up because the state and the feds cover more of the cost of the project. Okay, so partnerships, we got North Central Texas Council of Governments. I'll use that term interchangeable with COG or the MPO or RTC. So what it is the North Central Texas Council of Governments is the organization in North Texas designated by the governor and the federal government as the metropolitan planning organization for the region. The North Central Texas Council of Governments then allocated that authority to a policy body called the Regional Transportation Council. So the Regional Transportation Council acts as the MPO for the COG for the region. And the cities, your cities, and then TxDOT, everything that's done in the region, either by state roads, all have to go through COG. So TxDOT and COG work hand in hand on what happens in this region, and we're partnering with our cities on here, and that's all in an attempt to maximize not only just the leveraging potential of our partners, but when we have a unified message to both the MPO and TxDOT, it makes it easier for them to say yes. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time here because you've got the professionals that will talk more about this in a second. But the way we recommend you using your bond programs, this is not building a jail or a courthouse where the money has to be spent pretty quick. By the nature of these projects being that, we have to keep the public involved. We have property rights issues we have to address, environmental issues we have to contend with. In your particular case, you have a lot of water issues that have to come into consideration. So what that means is these roads have a longer life cycle than a normal construction project like a courthouse. And so we can time y'all's expenditures to meet and match whatever your budgetary issues are related to your tax rate. So we can have no impact if we do it a certain way, or minimal impact depending upon the speed with which we all decide we want to move. And I just pointed out that, like I said earlier, your growth rate over the last 4 years has been pretty impressive, and that growth rate has a tendency to offset any impacts that a road bond program would do because we stay underneath the wire. So now I'm going to go, some of this you've seen. We went, as we told you we would do, we continue to communicate with your partners in the county to come up with ideas and thoughts on what they want to be included. This is an all-in list, and obviously once we decide, y'all decide what you're comfortable with on a financial side, we will work to make a recommendations on which of these projects, if we have to cut some off, which ones we would recommend staying on. This is what we've been, this is the total universe of what we've gotten to date from our partners. Okay, so this was what we've done in the past. Y'all started working on the master thoroughfare plan in 2024, which was the map you showed up previously. And all the projects that we're looking at are on that master thoroughfare plan that your communities and your county, with TIGNAW's help, adopted in March of 2025. And some subsequent to that, y'all started working on which of these projects were priorities, and y'all done some of your own public meetings and outreach. And what we've done is additional meetings with other stakeholders to pick up the additional projects that you'll see today. And we're continuing our effort to get as much information out to the public as possible. We really want to hear from people. We heard from a couple last time we were here, and they pointed out a very critical piece of information that we needed to know, and that means we'll probably have to avoid them like the plague, which is what we need to know. All right, so I'm going to use some terms. I'm going to add on to this glossary as we go, but I throw out terms. Transportation has its own language. EA is an environmental assessment, which is the environmental document you have to do for any project that has state or federal funding. PS&E is plan specifications and estimates. Sometimes you'll hear somebody call that the design, but that's more involved than just the design. CEI is construction engineering inspection. So once a project's let, if the county is responsible for the managing of the project, they would have to retain services of a firm to do CEI work. On system means it's a TxDOT responsible project. Off system means it's not. I'm going through this because one of the critiques I got last time is this is very confusing material, and I apologize, it is very confusing material. And we're covering a lot of stuff in a little bit of time. You can't see it very well. We're going to get this up. We want to maybe recommend at some point putting a hot link right on your home page so that it's a one button stop for them to look at all the materials we do. And then we've already got a place where we can answer comments, and we'll continue to do that. So what you see here, different from the last time, is we made a couple of changes, and in the bypass, the reliever route project, we reduced that down project. I think it's 3. I can't say. Yeah, the 167 relief. We originally had the environmental assessment and the design of that project suggested as a part of the bond program. Given that it's a new location, reliever route, it's going to take a little bit of time to get that through the regulatory machine. So we reduced it to just the percentage we think the environmental clearance document will require. And that's the most important aspect of a project anyways, to get it environmentally cleared. So we reduced that there, and then we were asked by Crescent to look at a couple of new projects that were on system. One at 170 in the railroad, that's where it has a 171 in the railroad, where it has that skewed crossing. And so we're looking to see what we can do to make that a safer crossing. And then the Slocum Ranch Road extension at 377 bypass, we're looking at what we can do there. And then we added 2 more at the bottom that Granbury asked us to look at: Hill Boulevard extension and Hurricane Fly Drive extension. And I just made a command decision that if they wanted a local street included, that they had to put in 50 cents on the dollar. So if I'm misallocated my authorities, you can let me know.
Christine, is there any way you can enlarge that?
And we have a couple of extra handouts, I think, if we want
And let me throw in here. This is not a list of, it's not a prioritized list.
No, sir.
This is a list of all the projects that we're considering, not which one needs to go first.
Correct.
Or anything like that.
I got people confused last time when I said that we would pick projects to start with, and what I meant is that the court would look at this, whatever ends up making the bond program, if the bond program passes, you don't issue 100 whatever million, you issue whatever you need for a certain number of these projects that need to start. I would suggest that all the ones that are on system, you know, to a certain degree, we'd issue part of those dollars because you want to get started on the regulatory side of it, the environmental. But no, this is not a priority list. This is just this. We put them in order by precinct, 1 through 4 initially, and then as we added new ones, we just stuck them at the bottom so you know where they were. So there's no ranking on this. Sorry. Okay, so I'm gonna go real quick on these. This is we did this last time, but this is for the benefit of whoever's new here today. But this again, we'll get all this up on the website, and we'll meet with anybody, anytime, anywhere they want to meet to go over this stuff. But the intent on all these bond program projects, if they're on system, we're including enough to do, except for the 167 reliever route, we're putting enough money into these projects and we get them environmentally cleared and then designed. And then we will partner with the state on the right-of-way acquisition, utility relocation, and construction. So, and those are percentages. These are percentages, and Tignall has taken these numbers and added a 30% contingency because we're not building them in 2025. They'll be a couple years out, so we wanted to have some contingency for inflationary issues. So the first project is your 377 intersection improvements all the way through Hood County in specific areas that both TxDOT and the county have communicated to us that they're interested in doing. If the cost holds at 22 million, the EA and the PS&E should run you around just right under $3 million on that particular project. And then you got this is a total bypass. It's on your thoroughfare plan. If this makes the list, this is a project where first thing we do is change the name to reliever route because TxDOT doesn't like bypasses. But it's a reliever route, so it's, you know, there's a new location issues, there's a new right of way. The environmental will probably take a little bit longer because of new location. So the estimate that if the project moves forward in its totality, the percentages for the EA and the PS&E is just over 7 million on that particular project. Okay, the Loop 567 extension down around to 144 because it's a loop extension. It's eligible for participation from the state, and the percentage to get the environmental and PS&E done is right shy of 9 million. And so you see a price tag of $68 million, and what you do on these projects that are long or fairly expensive is you get clear the entire corridor, right? Because you want to protect the corridor, but then you can come in and build portions of the road, either segmentized, whatever budget you have, or cross-sectionally. So instead of building all 4 lanes or you know, the whole cross-section, you just build half the road, or you build segments of it. So once it's cleared, you can design and build whatever you can afford at the time. But that goes with all these projects. So this is the 167 relief route that we were talking about. New location. It's you know, got some environmental issues we'd have to address. So it's got a large price tag. The environmental is the critical path item there. But once it's cleared, you can build those segments that you need as you need them. And then this is the new one we got from Crescent, and it doesn't show, but the railroad track is on the north side of 171, and then in that circle, it crosses on that skew and goes to the south side. And so what we want to try to do is 90 degree the SH 171 so that you approach the railroad at a 90 degree angle. And then Slocum Ranch Road is just an extension around to the frontage roads. It's you know, it just helps. What's happening right now is people are driving, I call it a Texas off-ramp. So if you go look at the aerial, there's just a dirt road where people just get off the road and just turn around and go back. So we want to give them a all-weather surface of some sort there. Okay, and then the Stroud Creek connection, it's submitted by, you know, there's all part of the Hood County Master Thoroughfare Plan. Again, it's a large project, but we can do phasing as we do it, but the engineering and the estimates at 16 million, because these projects are now in the off-system area where in order to get the money from the Metropolitan Planning Organization or COG or the MPO, there's always a minimum of 20% local match. So we calculated the engineering and the 20% match. And again, we can adjust these as the financial situation requires. So all these are a little bit more expensive on the county side because they are, your partner is the MPO. So then you got the Mitchell Bend Highway Extension. You see it there. We've got, based on our estimates, you're looking at the county's portion would be, the way I calculated it was 13% for the environmental and the PS&E, and then 20% for the local match. So right at 33% of the total cost of the project. So when I say there are 20% match, the MPO covers, they will cover the engineering side of it. So if we want to look at that, we can do everything. But when you do a participation with the MPO on the engineering, you can't start on that project until you get an agreement with the state, and that takes a very long time. And so I can go over that a little bit more later, but my recommendation has always been, if you're going to go after COG money, start with the engineering as your local match because you get the project sooner. Okay, and then this is the Pecan Plantation South access. This is to get those folks in Pecan Plantation a route out so they don't have to drive towards Glen Rose in case of emergency. This is a project that has similar characteristics of projects we've done elsewhere in the region. And the MPO has shown an interest in these types of issues, helping solve these types of issues. And then you got the old Granbury Road. This is the one that I'm really talking about. When we come in and look at this, we've got a 20% match on this, but we can also prioritize segments of old Granbury Road and phase the impact to the budget based on which segments are the most critical. And that would be something that we either do before, which I would say try to get the whole road as part of the bond program because it's a fairly significant parallel route to 377, and 377 is going to continue to go under the knife if we're successful there. So a reliever route to that would be good, but we can manage this so that it doesn't bang your tax rate all at once. Meander Road, when we're done, we're going to call it Straighter Road. But the intent is to, that's a bypass or reliever route, and we want to realign and rehab and basically just make it a little bit safer road by taking out some of the 90-degree turns and giving you better shoulders and increasing some turning movements at the intersections. And then Portal Drive, this is that little extension all across a railroad track. It's kind of a rough movement, and we just want to work with the railroad on that to see if we can't get a better crossing there to make it a little bit safer. And then Hill was one of the new ones that Granbury submitted, Hill Boulevard Extension. And so we included the amount that we were asked to include. And you know, it's one of those things that we can, as we move forward, we can decide what does and doesn't make the list. And then the last one, I think, yes, was Hurricane Fly Drive Extension, same thing. We're asking, the city's asking us for just a portion of the funds, and so that's what we included in the bond program. And with that, I'll take questions on the roads, but right now you saw that we're right at a little over 150 million. If we don't streamline that list, so that's where you need to talk to Hilltop folks and your auditor about what those various implications are. But just be assured that we can manage recommendations for the issuance to hit any mark you want us to hit. In some counties, we manage them so that we can't issue if we ever impact the tax rate. There's others that the community is so upset about the congestion, they're okay with a hit on the, small impact on the tax rate because they want the road sooner. So we can manipulate this. That's not the right word. We can tailor this to whatever your needs are. But Hilltop and your financial folks will tell you what the art of the world of finances is. And I'll either take questions or get out of the way.
I would like to make one comment. A lot of the dashed lines, we've had a lot of confusion about this. People have come out and said, well, that line is coming right through the middle of my property. Part of what this does is it goes and figures out what is the best route to take.
Correct.
So that line is just kind of conceptual, saying somewhere in this area. But of course, we would try to line those up with, property lines and things like that to acquire that right of way where it's as least impactful to those in that area as possible. So I did want to make that clear. I've had a lot of questions about where exactly the road would be, and this is very conceptual at this point. It's still got to be.
And that is a good point, and that's why that's why I'm saying roads are different than buildings. Because when we start doing a road, the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to go out and meet with all we call it a MAPO, meeting with affected property owners, or potential, and it takes time to find an alignment that has the least impact on the number of people, and does it in a manner that is as conducive to their hopes, desires, and dreams as we can get there. Because the county does it, even on the state roads, we're able to be a little bit more sensitive to these, where we can, if they understand that the road is going to impact them, but if we could just shift it a little bit to minimize whatever, we can do stuff like that. And that's the reason it takes time to get these projects from a want a road to a have a road, because we work with the public on it. And we try to bring them along on what our plan is.
And another point that you made, where specifically on Old Granbury Road, I think that the engineering that was done on that shows it's more needed at the moment a little closer into town.
Correct.
Whereas that connecting part from, say, industrial back out to 377 and Crescent is more. The traffic burden that it's going to carry in the next 5 years is significantly less than this over here. So that's something that you can phase into the bond and get the funding to begin that portion later on. So I just wanted to kind of clear up that how
that's what
this can be.
You can build it in
stages.
sections, right? Where you build those that you needed now, and you can kind of pace it based on your financial situation. So yes, that would be my recommendation. Even if you could do it all at once, you don't want to do it all at once, because that's a lot of trauma.
Yeah.
That phase that you have, the PS&E, is that where you would go out and do the discussion and the?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
That's the very beginning at the environmental side. So we would start, and quite frankly, we're wanting people to look at it now and tell us things about it now. You know, it's hard to get people, they got lives to live, I understand that. But we're really wanting them to tell us before we pick a project if they have concerns with it, so that we can either, you know, pivot or address those issues. Just like the last time I was here, they just casually mentioned that they're certified as a historical farm, and that's like a death knell to a road. So, I mean, that's the kind of information we're looking now. But as we get, once the bond program passes and we work on these, the very first thing we'll do is go talk to the people that we think are impacted and walk them through what we're doing. That'll be right off the bat.
Okay, and just to make sure everyone is aware, there's a email address called mtpfeedback@hoodcountytexas.gov. And we have received a few emails there already, but feedback, please email us, call any of us, email us at our regular email address if you have any questions or concerns. But there is a specific email address, and there's a link on our website, mtpfeedback@hoodcountytexas.gov, sorry. And that is where you can, yeah, it's right here. Thank you, Christine, or Chris, whoever's over there. Just click on that link and send an email if you have any comments or questions.
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to see if we can't work with y'all to put a lot of this stuff right up on the home page so that it's a banner. Because even I have a hard time sometimes managing these websites, and I know what I'm looking for. We want to try to get it to where it's right on the home page, and it says a banner saying information related to the bond program. Click that, and it'll have everything that we've done, that information, so that it's just really easy to get to.
And yes. And just to kind of give some background on this, Ryan, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Could you come up to the mic, please, and just kind of go over what we discovered when we went through the traffic analysis with North Central Texas COG and how these roads affected that traffic data?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning. Good to see everybody again. So, you know, as John presented in his presentation, we started this process back in April of 2024. So that's over a year ago. So we've been with the leadership of the court and some of the local stakeholders, Granbury, Crescent, ISDs. We've been working really hard on figuring out what your needs are here in the county and what areas of congestion and safety that we're wanting to solve with these projects. And when we first started meeting, there were really two things, I guess that you could say three things that were at the top of the list of goals for the county. Number one was safety, and number two and three were congestion relief, particularly related to 377 and State Highway 144. And so I think we started off similar to what we have now. I think we have 15 projects that we've listed here. When we first started meeting, I think we identified 18, traffic improvements around, countywide that were identified that were needed. And then we refined that list to really target what the needs were for the county. And then we refined that to what we called priority corridors, which I think ended up being six projects. We fed those projects, or I collaborated with COG on those 6 projects, and they incorporated that. We worked with Dan Lamers, Chris Reed, Varian Barks, and Wade Haffey, I believe, were the names of the COG team that we worked with. And they were at all of our steering committee meetings. We also met in between steering committee meetings on virtual meetings to collaborate on what the outcomes of those steering committee meetings were, and they were with us the whole time. So they heard everything that everybody was saying in terms of the needs. But we worked with them. They've got a regional model, and so they look not only at Hood County, but they look at all these counties around us within their MPO. And so they're not just concerned with Hood County, but they're also, looking at, okay, what, if we were to make changes in Hood County, how does that affect Johnson County and Parker County and Tarrant County and Wise County? And so they've got a really good database in terms of demographics and population growth and travel demands, and they project that out. I think their current mobility plan is Mobility 2050 now. And so, we were working with them. We said, hey, we've got these 6 projects or 6 corridor improvements that we want to make in Hood County. Can y'all import those projects into your model? And what does that do for Hood County? And what does that do for the region? And so they did that. And they were, the results that they got when they imported these improvements into their model were very impressive and had great benefit, not only for Hood County, but also for the region. We saw, less congestion on 377. We saw less congestion on State Highway 144. We saw improved mobility down to US 67 to the south, improved mobility to Chisholm Trail going up to DFW. There's a lot of travel demand between Hood County up to Dallas-Fort Worth area every day. And I think everybody here in this room, if you live here, probably knows that. And these projects that we worked with you guys on and collaborated with COG on, their model demonstrated that these projects are going to have a real benefit and increased mobility to those areas. And those were areas that we, identified in our steering committee meetings that were the priority for the county. And so I don't know if that's the answer that you were looking for or the information you were asking for. But
Yes, I just wanted to, for anybody who hasn't been following this since last April, I think when North Central Texas COG, after they ran their traffic data and did all their modeling, they were quite surprised that the projects we had picked out improved things to the degree that they would. I think is what they said.
Absolutely. They were very, very, very pleased. They're, like I said, they're not just concerned with Hood County, they're concerned with the greater region as well. And I think they were excited when they saw, hey, not only is this really going to help the county, but this is going to help the greater region as well. So
Thank you.
Yep.
So I don't know how you want to handle it. We've got Hilltop here, the brains to go over the financials. Yeah, so I'll relinquish the floor.
Good evening, Judge, Commissioners, citizens of Hood County. I'm Jim Sabonis, I'm Managing Director at Hilltop Securities. I've been fortunate to work with the county for a number of years. I lead a team of professionals that provide financial advisory services to this county and many North Texas and national counties. And it's interesting because this seems like in the last years with the fantastic growth we've had in Texas, some of the outer non-metroplex counties are seeing tremendous growth. Just last year, we helped Johnson County have a successful road bond election, and we issued the first phase a few months ago. Next week, I'm meeting with a southern county south of the metroplex that has $600 million of road projects they want to talk about, and they have no debt outstanding. And so this is something everyone's facing. And I want to, before I start, compliment Stephanie, the commissioners, and you, Judge. We've spent a lot of time interacting through Stephanie about this plan, understanding this, and I think that it clearly indicates the ability that the county has. And I'm going to break it into 2 categories. And I think you've heard me say this many times before. Whenever one of my clients talks about issuing debt or what our capacity is, I do the same thing I do when my wife says, I'd like to buy a new car or I've got my eye on a new house. You have to take a review of your existing financial condition, what your liabilities are, kind of understand where you are. And so the first part of this presentation is kind of an overview of where the financial condition of the county is. And it's never been in a stronger financial condition, and I'll show some statistics to prove that. Then the second part is financial analysis of a variety of bond sizing scenarios. to show you what the impact is. And I'll give a preview of this and as a follow-up on the road consultant's discussion, is that as of 2/15/26, we've paid off all the debt we have in the county. We'll be almost debt-free. And so through your very, very, very ultra-conservative issuance of debt, there won't be no debt outstanding. So there will be an impact of doing a bond program. We're not like some of my issuers who have issued debt, and so we can say, how's that debt pay off and what can we add in? But we're almost out of debt. So if you go to the third page, please. And let me just start by saying that the county's in a very strong condition. We have 2 ratings, but these ratings are a little bit dated because we haven't issued debt in a while, but we're rated both AA+ by Standard & Poor's and AA+ by Fitch. The first one of these was actually implemented in 2014. One was done in 2017. We haven't issued publicly issued debt since 2017. And the unique aspect is we're much stronger than we were in 2017. So there's no doubt in my mind that we would maintain our AA+ and maybe get a AAA rating, but it's the highest rating. We're really well situated there. The next part is just kind of give you a feel why do we have such a strong situation? This county's just grown tremendously, and I was looking through my notes, and our certified value came in just a couple days ago, and we're going to be $12.5 billion, an increase of 3.6% over last year. To tell people what the growth is, if you look back 5 years, we've actually grown $5 billion. If you look back 10 years, we've grown $10 billion. We've been growing over the last 5 years about $190 million per taxable assessed value per year. And my general belief, representing other entities, municipalities that in your county and just knowing what's happening, you know, we might have hit a small lull, and this lull seems to be taking place across North Texas. You know, a little slower growth in the last year, but my expectation is you actually outgrow faster in the future than you have, though that's not embedded in our analysis. We're very ultra conservative in our analysis. If you go back one page, please. And then, Commissioners and the citizens should be proud of this fact. You have the lowest tax rates you've had in 10 years. And just in the last 4 years alone, you've dropped the tax rate 15.4 cents. So your growth in value has been combined with your very conservative budgeting, and you've been able to reduce the cost of the county, and you have a very low tax rate. As I indicated, we made a payment, this year's payment on 2/15 of 25. So we only have one payment left for about $2.5 million outstanding that we paid in next fiscal year. So we're almost out of that. This is actually a graph of your growth values, and as you can see, it's been stunning. This is your tax rate, and it's amazing what's taken place. You know, for a period of time, we were hovering around 38 cents in our tax rate. And again, in the last few years, we've gone down where our current tax rate is 23. And my expectation is that based on your growth, you probably end up having a lower tax rate going into the ultimate year. So you're very conservative and prioritize the efficiency you place on the tax rate. Not only that, but when you look at the green bar, that's the amount of the tax rate that is allocated to debt. And in 2016, it was 5.3 cents. And it stood about level as this county issued some small debt issues. But as I indicated, we stopped issuing major debt in 2017. We did a couple tax notes, but as we've paid off our debt and as we've grown, we have a 2.5 cent tax rate, and we don't issue any debt based on our preliminary numbers. We'll be less than 2 cents the upcoming year, to give you a feel. Next page, please. So it's one thing for me to say this county's got a strong financial condition, but Standard & Poor's and Fitch are one of the 3 major rating companies, and they are purely objective when they look at this. And in fact, sometimes I think, you know, over my career working in Texas, that they underrated us in Texas. We, you know, because of our strong structural finances that we are put in place by the Texas legislature and the nature of how you use the county and my other clients we're just very strong, and I think we're in some ways underrated. It's hard to say you're underrated when you're AA+, but that's where you are. So when you look at this, it's not just that you're AA+, but I look at the individual components, and when you look at the individual criteria they talk about, our economy, very strong. Our budget flexibility, very strong. Our budget performance, very strong. Our liquidity, very strong. Equivalent to AAA categories and all of those. Strong management, and the only reason it's not very strong is that, that we actually have a growing economy. We have to increase our costs slightly, but we have all the key practices in place that a county should have to give us a very good management control. We have strong debt and contingent liabilities. And so, again, our state legislature has a strong framework for how counties operate. And you acted conservatively, proactively, both from a planning and the way you do things. And we have got the highest regards. And again, we're twice as big as we were in 2014. We have higher cash balances. If we applied for a rating today, there's no doubt in my mind we're going to be confirmed AA+ and maybe push to AAA. Though sometimes AAA is just that one notch to the very highest. When you realize Texas is not a AAA credit, the federal government is not AAA. They're both AA+ by Standard & Poor's. Sometimes people in New York see us a little bit differently than the world's reality. On Fitch is actually same thing. In 17, they actually revised their criteria. And a lot of my clients were concerned because their criteria became much more statistically oriented, less subjective. But applying statistical criteria to you actually got us a AA+ rating. And here, the thing I like about this is that they actually clearly indicated. And if you look at this, you can see in our revenue framework, the criteria component, they give us a AAA. Our long-term liability AAA, our operating performance AAA, our expenditures formats is AA. And again, I want to say that the only reason we don't have a AAA is because our current legislation has some limits on how we generate revenue. There are caps on how we can increase our maintenance and operation tax on an annual basis. It's a structural constraint. It's not a result of management we have here, but everyone's aware that the legislation's passed limitations on how you can grow your revenue. We can't just say we want to do 20% increase. We have to go through some very limiting processes. And so again, Fitch has us as a AA+, and again, we're much stronger than we were in 2017. We go to the next page. This is our debt outstanding. We have one small note remaining. We have a $2.5 million payment in February of 26. After that, we would be out of debt. The next one is the start of talking about the bond program. So before I go to that, again, I want to say that this county is very strong financial. When I think of my portfolio of clients, there's no one that has a stronger overall performance. And we're a AA+, but those are lagging ratings. We're stronger than we would receive them. We would be confirmed to go forward. And again, I think the nature of our county is there's nothing. The important thing, and I've said to you before, Judge, when I look at these ratings, the important thing that stands out to me is we can't control how the legislator put a revenue cap on you, but everything that you can control, you have a AAA rating on. And not many issuers say that you and the commissioner should be congratulated for that. So let's talk about a bond program. We've issued general obligation. We voted general obligation bonds. It's a pledge of our INS ad valorem tax. For us, we ran very conservative assumptions. This would be tax exempt because of the public purpose. Our amortization is 20 years. We're not, and I'll tell you that some of our clients go 25 or 30 years to try to spread out things, but our experience in talking to Stephanie, working with you commissioners, is that, we want to make sure that we only finance things for the useful life. And so we've got roads, we're thinking 20 years. We indicate, we expect to get a AA+ bond rating. And then when we looked at interest rates, as of, we reran this on the 21st, and we buffered our interest rate costs with the concept that we're not sure where rates are going to go in the future. There's a lot of talk about rates declining and, on the other hand, inflation, but we have a buffer in here, and I think this buffer it would, over the period of this process of issuing debt, would be ultra conservative. We actually showed it in 4 phases, and what I mean by 4 phases is that we kind of split it up into 4 phases with the thought that you can't do, I learned early in my career when I helped someone with a bond program, we were talking about you can't do every street everywhere, no one's going to be able to drive through this county. So you have to come up with the programs. And actually, while we showed it as 4 and we kind of break it up evenly, ultimately, if the bond program were to pass and we'd sit down with the staff of the engineering and your consultants, you come up with a priority list and we would match the funding on a basis. And we did it on every 2 years. You do it every year. It's just a matter of what those projects were. But for this analysis, we just did annual issuances 2 years apart. On our growth rate, we're very conservative in our growth rate. As you've seen before, we've grown substantially faster than what we're talking about. And I think based on what I know is taking place here between the communities and districts that have put in place, I think that we'll outpace this. And the key point I'd mention is that we may not meet the actual assumption on one annual basis, but over the grand scheme of things, over the program, we grow what we talk about. But more importantly, with this low growth rate, whether we do 4% or 8%, it's not going to really have a big issue on the impact. We've done sensitivities on that. They have a minor impact on the growth. It's because we're not looking at like 20% growth per year. So the next page is what everybody came for. This is a show time. This is our program that we have, and we've done 4 scenarios. And I'll start with scenario 4. And scenario 4 was based on a previous list of projects that we had with the engineer at that time. This is dated July 9th. That showed us having $771 million of priority projects, which of that your responsibility would have been $170 million. And then we have a jail for $24 million. So that's why that one is there. And I'll update that for the current list of 159. But starting with scenario 1, what our thought here would be that the jail expansion is estimated to be about $24 million, and that we have road program of about $100 million. We would do the jail and the first phase of the roads in 26. 2 years later, we do the second phase and continue that process going forward. Total amount of bonds we'd issue over time would be $125,965,000. After paying the issuance cost and underwriter's discount, you'd end up with your $124 million. Total principal and interest over this time frame would be about $214 million, or on an average annual basis about $8.2 million. And here's the key number. So during this time frame, working on layering all the debt in and trying to make it as efficient as possible. Our conservative assumption on interest rates being high and our growth in taxable value being low. Our max projected INS tax rate is about 6.2 cents here, which would be about a 3.7 cent increase. And there's a lot of strategies how you may choose to do that. We can actually kind of ramp up by structuring that, a penny per year if you choose to. Some of my clients would say they'd rather just go to that tax rate increase 1 year, deal with, as you approve the program, and then not have to worry about improvement, increases later. But in general, what we think it'd be about a 3.7 cent tax increase. On scenario 2, only difference in scenario 2 is that we increase the road by an additional $25 million, split that again evenly over 4 phases. And in summary, a $24 million jail expansion, $125 million road program issued in phases would have an impact of about 5 cents. Then you move forward to the scenario 3, which is the $150 million road program combined with $24 million jail. We move up to about a 6.3 cent tax rate increase that would take place. And finally, the scenario that we ran based on the previous list of projects and costs. And I want to stress that we show funding $170.6 million of projects but the full cost on the projects is about $771 million. The rest is absorbed by the state or local municipalities. It would be about 7.4 cent. And so before I answer questions about this, and I think it's an important part to do that, I'd like to talk a little bit about my experience in bond programs, and also tell you about what the law says about bond programs. When we do a bond election, you know, we indicate the amount that we're actually issuing, and what we do is the projected tax rate impact. And one thing I mentioned about this is that this program that's issued in 26, it's only got 3 more issues in 6 years later. So in 2012, it's actually fully exhausted. In state of Texas, our state statute allows us to do a bond program, and many of my clients look at a bond program more on a 10-year cycle and say, you know, what do we need over this longer period of time? And if we can have a bond election, we can actually use it authority for 10 years, and actually for longer than that. Like if we did phases in a bond program, it can be extended, but 10 years seems to be where the Attorney General likes us to do that. And then the second point I would say is that to me, the key aspect of it is, well, we have the dollar amount of bonds. What I think that really the moral commitment to the citizens is, if we indicate in our bond election material what the tax rate increase would be, what is the maximum tax rate increase? So as your advisor, you know, based on the list of projects and timing and your values and interest rates, well, we have it structured over those 4 issues. They might go slower, they might go faster. So we're not growing fast. We have very, you know, conservative assumptions, but some of my hyper-growing communities and very, you know, ones that you read about in the paper, they're the fastest growing places in the nation, they use very high rates. And what will happen is if they don't hit that, they'll just slow down their capital because there's an orientation to it. So the reason I put this together is that I'm going to use a hypothetical that, let's say that your ideal scenario is scenario 3, but at the same time you think that a 5-cent tax rate is really what you think is the appropriate maximum that you want the taxpayers to vote for. You can vote for the $174 million projects, and what we would do is make sure that we didn't issue above 5-cent tax rate. So we might do it instead of this 4, we could do it maybe in 5 or 6 phases, or if your values went higher, which I expect they will go, we'd accomplish it within the 4 in that time frame. So this is something I think that in my experience, hindsight, working with clients that have done bond elections, is we always want to be conservative. So when people vote, we meet that, but sometimes being conservative limits you and what you can do. So when you think about this, to me, you know, we have the tax rate impact based on each of these, though I think that you could buffer it by saying, you know, we might vote the 174 hypothetically, but our commitment to you is we're not going to go over 5 cents. And so that gives you a little flexibility as you go forward in those projects. Straightforward, that's, I think, the key thing that everyone's come here for. So with that, that includes the formal numbers I'm presenting, and I'd answer any questions or provide any different information. Excuse me. Can you go back to the next page? Yeah.
On a hypothetical $300,000 home, if it didn't raise the tax rate by 0.03, whatever it was, what would that be as far as dollars concerned to the homeowner on the $300,000 home?
Let's see, I think that's going to be, I guess about.
I did it on a 350 and it's $105.
Yeah, $90 on 300,000. So 3 cents is $90 on a $300,000 home. And I again, I'll follow up and send to Stephanie the expected annual impact based on your average home price. I should have added to the slide. Now I'll add that to you, but $90 is what it would be.
This is a very conservative estimate. You're not even figuring in any projected growth on this. This is what the rate would be every year if our valuation stayed exactly what it is right now, correct?
If you go back one slide, we're showing some growth and, but it's just for
Oh,
a couple years.
1.6,
So
okay.
5%, 3%, and then 1.6% thereafter. But again, it's significantly less than what we've historically grown. And so I do think we have just a minor amount of growth in this place.
Okay.
We got a lot of stuff to go through on the thing. I think we need to, you know, hopefully we have something to add to.
Just to, again, encourage the community, the people here today and the people that are listening to us, we really need to know what you think. And then to put this in perspective for you, when we did a bond program in Rockwall County, we anticipated the worst case scenario there was about a 3-cent increase over the life of the bond program. But when we went to do a 21 bond program, we went back and calculated it, and the county only ended up using about a penny to do that bond program. So that's because we managed the way we issued the debt to minimize the impact of the tax rate. So he's telling you the worst case scenario, which we need to communicate that, which we'll do that. But our commitment to you is because of roads nature, we can do it to where we have as little impact on the tax rate as you want it to, and still move forward. I mean, if you don't do anything, you don't have any tax rate impact. But if you do stuff, we can help manage the overall impact.
Yeah, and the jail, Ide Bailey went through and did a very comprehensive effect of what the jail population and sending people out of county as opposed to building the facility here. And that's on our webpage. It's under Commissioner's Court, and over there on the left, it'll say the jail expansion project. And if you want to get in that, it's got some very granular data, but basically the long and the short of that thing, the county jail expansion. If you want to click on that, you can kind of pull up the whole document there. But looking at taking some very conservative estimations and projections on that, also looking at about 20 years out, our population in the jail, the need for, or the number of beds we will need projected at that time will be where we are at that time and at the expiration of the bond. That seemed to make the most sense to bring everything together, build for that exact need there. But looking at that over that 20 years, it is a significant savings to the taxpayer with the way that the costs of going out of county and everything are factoring in now. It's a significant savings to the taxpayers to go ahead and approve that bond and get this jail built.
I would ask if you could go back to the presentation to the page 5. I want to make one more comment based on what's happened over the last few years with other issuers that are doing programs. And I want to point out that in 2022, there was some additional legislation passed that limited the operating revenue growth that a county could do. And as your county values grew much faster than the limit and the allowance of you to actually generate new revenue, you've seen your INS tax, your M&O tax go down. So we didn't forecast this out there, but my expectation is that trend on the blue column, your M&O tax will continue to go down. And so my analysis is focused on exactly the tax rate for the debt service. What I've seen for some of my other clients that have programs like this is they might start to use the required limitation that causes a decrease in their M&O to offset some of the increase in your INS. And the net result would be, well, we'll have to isolate because of state law and how we present our presentation. I actually believe that your aggregate tax rate will go down. And maybe, again, if you think about this, if we pass this election in 22 and we had a 5-cent impact, our tax rates would be lower now. And I think that trend will continue, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah.
Let's wrap this up. We're going to hear from Sewell next. Y'all got to go to Arlington? You have to go? Thank y'all very much. Y'all know how to get in touch with them. Please, you got the website, the community. Y'all have any questions, please do that. Thank you, Mr. Poster. Thank you, Brian Jones, TNP. Thank you, Lisa Poster, for coming down. Good to see y'all. So thank all of y'all very much, the staff. And now we're going to get into item number 1, which is the received presentation to discuss sewer fleet management analysis regarding county vehicles. And I'm going to take about a 4-minute break right now. Everybody needs to go to the restroom right quick. We're going to come right back. Steve, would you tell the two commissioners that we're ready to begin? We got to get going here because we got to adjourn at noon for another meeting.
Sir, not even in this building, the new meeting.
I could make this efficient.
Okay, sir, please introduce yourself and your name and tell us who you are and let's get started.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Reed Hoffman. This is Billy Hughes. We are here with Soul Fleet Management. We're going to present the program that we have been working with the Sheriff's Office with over the past couple of months. A couple of disclaimers. I think Commissioner Eagles asked me for it, so afterwards, there's going to be some material that we're going to go over. I'm going to wrap all this stuff into a nice little summary. I'm going to send it back to everybody so you have it for review. Also, in full disclosure, my understanding is that you have, at least portions of the commissioners have seen this presentation through Enterprise, right? So again, full disclosure, I've been doing this almost 12 years. I started my fleet management career with Enterprise Fleet Management. So obviously I know their program really well. I know our program really well, and there are some very distinct differences that we do. And so I'm going to juxtapose those against how Enterprise and the legacy fleet management companies do it with how we do it different. Cool. And if you want to stop, interrupt me, ask any questions, by all means, this information is for you, so please feel free.
Yeah, let me stop you right now. Could you kind of stay with the mic?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. All right, so where I begin, every one of these meetings, the first time I talk to somebody, is with the main theme that's going to run through this entire presentation. And at the end of the day, whether we're talking about vehicle maintenance, acquisition, funding, or resale, doesn't matter what it is, it all comes back to one centralized concept, and that is optimal vehicle life cycle. I don't care if we're talking about a tandem axle dump truck or pick the smallest SUV or sedan that you can think of. Every vehicle has an optimal life cycle. There's a point in time where it would have been better to get rid of that vehicle than stay in it. And so if you're looking at the screen here, what we try and do with our customers is use our services and programs to track the three largest expenses, and that is depreciation, fuel, and maintenance. And for this initial part of this discussion, depreciation strictly means loss in vehicle value. And the reason we want to track that, if you look at my handy dandy graph, is because we want to find each one of your vehicles sweet spots or optimal replacement time periods. And so my red line on this graph represents depreciation. I think we can all agree that as soon as we drive a new vehicle off the lot, it loses value very quickly, right? Mm-hmm. But we want to avoid you holding it for so long that it's not worth anything to anybody. Also, I think everybody in this room can agree that newer vehicles cost less to maintain and fuel than older vehicles. So again, we want to find where those lines intersect through data and analytics and find that sweet spot or optimal replacement time. Now, there is one variable that is not on this slide that I'm going to come back to quite frequently, and to me, it's arguably the most important piece of good long-term fleet planning, and that is the resale value of your vehicles. So, if we understand the overall concept, what are the benchmarks we're trying to hit with optimal vehicle life cycle? So, for gas engine vehicles, over here on the bottom left, my recommendation is not to hold them over 5 years or past 100,000 miles. And that all comes back to maintenance expense and resale value. Now, does that mean at 101,000 miles, your vehicle's going to burn to the ground? That's not what I'm saying. But every day we go past 5 years and every mile we go past 100,000 miles, our resale value declines dramatically and we expose ourselves to more and more risk for catastrophic maintenance failures. Now, when we talk about diesel engine vehicles, as soon as you add a diesel engine to a vehicle, it adds anywhere from $8,000 to $12,000 of upfront expense. So number one, we need to hold it a little longer to break even, but those vehicles are meant to be driven a little harder, a little longer, so we can extend that hold period in terms of years. The sweet spot for mileage is usually around 125 to 150,000 miles. Again, that all comes back to maintenance expense and resale value. Now, the one thing I will fully admit is that if we've got some really specialized upfit or expensive aftermarket equipment that is on a vehicle, we need to consider and make different fleet plans for those types of vehicles. Now, Now, we understand the basics with our sheriff's vehicles. Again, pretty much all of them are all gas engine vehicles. So again, we're targeting no more than 5 years, no more than 100,000 miles, again, resale and maintenance. But there are two variables that really go into life cycle analysis for a sheriff's or public safety vehicle. And that is, number one, I think we all know that they have a ton of equipment in them. So again, I'm going to show you how we can use that to our advantage. But also, number two, they never shut off, right? They're idling a ton. And so engine hours are critically important. Now, if we understand the overall concept, we understand the benchmarks that we're trying to hit. Sorry about that. This brings us to our Sewell Fleet Management suite of services. And again, I'm going to do this, I'm going to juxtapose us versus other fleet management companies. And so where I'm going to start is here on lifecycle management. And this is everything from point A when you acquire a vehicle to point B when you eventually get out. And so typically, again, let's take Enterprise because I know them really well. Every fleet management company in the industry charges a monthly management fee. Enterprises is a percentage of the price of the vehicle. So if we have a $60,000 vehicle, number one, that can vary, right? But number two, with a $60,000 vehicle is typically $55 to $60 that they charge per month for that vehicle. What we have the ability to do, and it's unique in the industry, is we charge a fixed $30 per vehicle per month that is in our program, and we include at no cost our maintenance program, our fuel card program, roadside assistance. There's a complete dashboard, and you get a dedicated account management team, all for that fixed $30 per month. We also have the ability to do telematics. There's some title management, toll management, and some other services that I'm going to skip because it usually doesn't apply for government entities. Now, are there any questions before I get into each one of these programs in more specificity? Good deal. All right, so we're going to start with lifecycle management. Again, everything from point A when you acquire a vehicle to point B when you get out. We're going to start with acquisition, and there's two parts to acquisition. Number one, what we try and do is get all of our clients as proactive as humanly possible. And when we can have the lead time and we can be proactive, one of the things that we can do is order vehicles direct from the manufacturer. Number one is you can spec every vehicle the way you want, so you're not at mercy of buying a vehicle with a leather wrapped steering wheel or a heated bumper or something like that, right? Also, it is the least expensive way to acquire a vehicle. So we want to factory order as many vehicles as possible. Number two, and this is the variable that allows us, Sewell Fleet Management, to do everything differently than other fleet management companies. And that's because we are the only fleet management company in the industry that has one of the largest government and commercial dealership groups in the nation attached to us. The one thing that other fleet management companies don't have, again, let's take Enterprise. They do not have any new vehicle inventory. So we cut out the middleman. There's no added expense. And so we've got tons of vehicles sitting on our lots already upfit, especially how the Sheriff's Department likes their vehicles. And you have access to those with no additional markup. We are brand agnostic, so whether you guys want to do Ram, Ford, General Motors, Nissan, Toyota, Maserati, it really doesn't matter, right? Also, at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is combine resale and acquisition to develop the best trade cycle for every one of your vehicles. And so that brings me to the resale portion. Again, one of the most overlooked pieces, but to me, and I think I'm going to prove it today, one of the most important pieces. Our resale program, we've got a bunch of different outlets and avenues where we can resell vehicles, but it's designed to be easy and maximize the county's equity at the end of the vehicle. Question, comments? Good deal. Also, something different that we can do is basically we can put anything from a pallet jack to an aircraft into our program and help manage preventative maintenance and the life cycle. So whether we're talking about yellow iron, school buses, lawn tractors, it really doesn't matter. We can be a one-stop shop for all the county's equipment. Now, our maintenance program. The way I describe our maintenance program is it works like a pass-through program. So your drivers or employees, whoever's responsible for taking vehicles in for maintenance, number one, we're going to utilize the local tax base. Number two is wherever you guys are currently getting maintenance and you have good relationships and wherever you want to, feel free to stay with those shops. We have no in-network or out-of-network facilities. However, one of the things, when you onboard with Sewell Fleet Management, we will set up different specifics and parameters on how you want your vehicles maintained and repaired. For instance, again, let's take engine hours with sheriff's vehicles. We have a bunch of clients that will do their preventative maintenance reminders through the OEM recommended maintenance intervals. However, again, because engine hours are critical with maintenance, we can set up a secondary parameter to start pushing notifications and alerts with either engine hours or mileage, okay? Now, when your vehicles go into the shop, your employees and drivers are automatically removed from any upselling or decision-making. Again, remember those parameters. That shop then has to call our ASE certified Sewell Fleet Management technicians whose entire mission in life is to oversee and manage all of your vehicles' maintenance and repairs. They're going to bat for you to make sure that you're not over-maintaining or under-maintaining your vehicles, and that everything that that shop wants to do is legit and falls into lines with those specific parameters on how you want your vehicles maintained. The work is then done. It's charged directly to Sewell Fleet Management, the sheriff's deputies back on the road with minimal downtime. We then turn around, itemize, consolidate, and audit all of those invoices and bill you guys back on the next month. We take every one of those invoices, and this is something also that is unique in the industry. We take every one of those invoices that we pay on your behalf, and we will upload that into that vehicle's electronic record. So if you ever wanted to audit us or see line item by line item what was done and what was charged, you have all that information there available. Or if you need to produce that invoice, you have that information there. Now, again, a couple of places where we differ. Again, we have no in-network or out-of-network shops, so you literally use whoever or whatever shop that you want to use. We manage tens of thousands of vehicles all across Texas, and we have negotiated and qualified for different discounts, special account pricing. We pass all of those discounts on to Hood County and our customers, right? So, and I've got a little examples, put some numbers to this. So this is from real life customers here, and this is some examples of where we've negotiated different labor rates, hours billed, and if you look on the blue and purple one there, you can see where cabin air filters not due, fuel filter not due. And this is where our ASE certified technicians will decline those services. And at the end of the day, the way we see vehicle cost is in total cost of ownership. So if you think of different buckets of acquisition, funding, maintenance, fuel, resale, all the downtime, all these different things, we want to work in conjunction with you and have all of our resources shrink each one of those buckets of total cost of ownership so we can lower your overall fleet budget. Now, I'm going to get into fuel and telematics, and this is going to be kind of quick because it's super easy with Sewell Fleet Management. We want our program to fit around what our clients are already happy with and that works for them that they are doing. So we do have a fuel card program. Again, it costs nothing. You can use whatever fuel pumps or service stations that you want to use. However, if you want to keep your current fuel provider and the way you're currently fueling sheriff's vehicles and paying for it, we can integrate our platform around what you guys are currently doing. So we're very easy to work with in that case. So again, fuel, either keep doing what you're currently doing, or you can switch to, sorry about that, switch to ours. Now, telematics, and this is something with public safety. I'm a huge believer in telematics or GPS. We typically don't see this used with our public safety clients because you guys already have programs and processes, solutions in place. So, but at the end of the day, you can either keep what you got. We do have some solutions for this if we're talking about maybe the white fleet and the rest of the county. But again, in the interest of time, I'm going to skip this right now. We can have a much more in-depth discussion about telematics in the future. All right, we're going to get into my favorite pieces here. So we're going to talk about funding first. And I want to be very clear that the way Sewell Fleet Management sees funding, it is strictly a strategic mechanism to get you from point A when you get in a vehicle to point B when you get out. We are always trying to marry two main goals of your county when we talk about funding. Number one is the operational use of the vehicle. Number two are any budgetary restrictions or concerns and the way that you want the county's financials to be spent and to look, right? So if you want to continue to outlay a single budget line item for a single vehicle, basically paying cash, right? You can continue to do that with Sewell Fleet Management. We are not going to be dictatorial on how we want you to fund vehicles. This program and the concept of optimal vehicle life cycle, it stays the same whether you pay cash for a vehicle, whether you finance a vehicle, whether you lease a vehicle. At the end of the day, what we're trying to do, again, is keep your vehicles with an optimal vehicle life cycle. So if you want to continue to pay cash, go ahead. If you want to do a traditional APR finance, like if you or I were going to go down and finance our personal car, we have that option as well. However, what I'm going to talk about here, and I'm a huge proponent of, is something that's called a municipal track lease. And so I'm sure a lot of people in this room, if you've never heard of a municipal track lease before, we have this preconceived notion of the way a lease works in our head. Like if we were going to go down and lease our personal vehicle from a dealership. This works nothing like that. The entire idea behind a municipal track lease is if, again, we are picking or trying to pick a specific point in the future to replace a vehicle. Number one, why outlay all the cash at one time, but also only pay for the portion of the vehicle that you use? And so with our leasing, there are no mileage restrictions or over mileage charges. There are no wear and tear penalties. You're going to build equity during this funding term to use like a down payment on the next vehicle. And I'm going to show you an example of how that works. You can upfit and put whatever equipment on the vehicle that you want. Again, we're talking about sheriff's vehicles. There's a ton of equipment that goes in there. And we work with a bunch of sheriff's departments and municipal police departments that lease public safety vehicles. Any initial questions on funding before I show you an example of how this works? All right. So I'm going to give you an example of something that we've been working with, a specific vehicle that they are looking at with the sheriff's department. So this is a Tahoe PPV or patrol Tahoe, right? And so what you're looking at here is something I call a holding cost. It's designed to show one vehicle in one scenario and that exact same vehicle in another scenario. And we're going to take the major components of a vehicle's total cost of ownership and break it down on a monthly average. So over here, we got vehicle cost, our upfit, how we pay for the vehicle and our monthly payment here in the top highlighted row, our maintenance and fuel, and then down here between the blue and the green with the bottom highlighted row is going to be our resale. And I'm going to start here where it says cycle 1 lease. And so what we are thinking the optimal life cycle is for these Tahoes for the sheriff's department is about 3 years, and it's going to be somewhere around 60,000 miles. And what we're doing is we're writing this lease down to a 10%. So the thing, if you picture in your mind a traditional finance, like again, if you and I were going to finance our personal car, we pick a funding term, right? Whether that's 3, 4, 5, 6 years. At the end of that funding term, we have fully depreciated that vehicle, or we have paid that thing down. We don't owe anything else on that vehicle, right? So one of the things that we can do with a track lease is we can pick strategically, and we can do it vehicle to vehicle, but we can pick strategically where we're going to stop those payments, okay? So instead of depreciating or paying the full amount for a vehicle, we're only going to depreciate or pay for some of it. And so this example that we're given here, we are stopping this lease with 10% of the vehicle's value left over. And I'm going to go into this a little more in depth. So our vehicle cost, the Tahoe by itself, $52,500. The upfit, including the ballistic windshields and glass that you guys put in every sheriff's vehicle, $33,000. So if we add those together, we have a total vehicle price for one Tahoe of $85,500. Our payment, if we do this on a monthly payment, our payment would be $1,900 per month. We anticipate over 3 years that maintenance is going to average about $83 per month. Again, if we're staying within optimal vehicle life cycle, all we should be doing is oil changes, preventative maintenance, maybe some tires and brakes, depending on the mileage. But what we're trying to avoid is replacing new engines, replacing transmissions. and we're going to increase the uptime, which is crucial for public safety vehicles, right? So if we look at this on a monthly operating cost or cash outlay, $2,266.02 to acquire, fund, maintain, and fuel this Tahoe. Now, when we get down here to resale, so remember I said that we're going to, in this scenario, we're going to stop these payments with 10% of the vehicle's value left over. Well, 10% of $85,500 is $8,550. So in this scenario, at the end of 3 years, you guys have 3 different options. Number one, technically you still owe this $8,550. And one of the things we're going to do is we're going to meet with your team, the Sheriff's Department, multiple times throughout the year. So none of this is ever going to sneak up on us, right? But if at the end of this 3 years, we have this $8,500 left over, and you guys say, Reed, great presentation, like the partnership, just don't believe you on this optimal vehicle life cycle stuff, you guys could cut us a check for the $8,550. Take the title, take the vehicle, and go do whatever you want with it. Number two is maybe budgetary concerns or market conditions have changed. And so maybe the best option is to keep funding that $8,500 on a month-to-month basis until we either get to zero or you guys eventually want to resell it. Again, you have full control over this. However, what 99% of our clients do, and the whole purpose behind this, if you think about a vehicle as a 3-legged stool, on one leg, we've got the vehicle's life cycle. We want to combine that with strategic funding and then capitalize on the resale to lower your total cost into the future. So at the end of 3 years with around $60,000 conservatively, I think we can resell that Tahoe PPV for 25 grand. The idea is that we take this last $8,500 or 10% out of the resale proceeds, and now Hood County walks away with, let's call it close to $16,500. Now, I know government regulations and laws are different than a regular commercial company, but I kind of make the extreme joke so you get the point. That's $16,500 or $450. That is Hood County's money. We're not going to dictate what you do with that money. If you want to take that in the form of a check, throw a parade or a barbecue for the citizens of your county, by all means, go for it. But again, since we're talking about lowering vehicle costs into the future long term, what most of our clients do is they take this $16,450 and they're going to roll it to the next vehicle. And that's what this cycle 2 with the equity roll. And so we've got $16,450 that's going to act like a down payment on the next vehicle. So again, we've got the same Tahoe, $52,500. The ballistic windshield, they are not reusable. So we're going to have the ballistic glass upfit costs. But one of the things that we try and do with all of our customers, again, to reduce the total cost of ownership is we're going to reuse as much of that equipment from the old vehicle into the new vehicle to reduce costs. But now look at our payment, $1,111.14. Obviously much, much lower. And then the process just starts itself all over again. And again, this is how you marry life cycle of the vehicle, strategic funding, and the resale to reduce your cost long-term for Hood County and the Sheriff's Departments. Any questions before I go to the next piece? All right, so this is an individual vehicle scenario. So I want to show you what this looks like with all 70 of the sheriff's vehicles. And so what we've got is a tool. Remember I said we want to get as proactive as humanly possible, right? And so what we have is our multi-year fleet planning toolkit. And we took the entire fleet list for the Sheriff's Department, put it in here into our tool. And what I'm looking at here is age of the vehicle, the type of vehicle it is, whether it's gas or diesel, although all these are gas, how many miles the vehicle currently has on it. Remember our optimal replacement benchmarks that we talked about in the beginning. And then how many annual miles historically that each one of your vehicles has done. And what we can do is we come over here to the next 5 years, and we're going to put X's into the appropriate box, cell, year, however you want to look at it, where we're anticipating that each one of the Sheriff's Department's vehicles are going to need to be replaced. So what we can do is build a future 5-year forward-looking forecast that number one can, again, this is meant to be a living document, and we're going to come back to this multiple times over the year. But if being proactive is one of the most important pieces of lowering overall fleet budget, this is a great way to do this. Also, once we have the fleet list in here like we do, we can work in collaboration with the Sheriff's Department and run any iteration or variation of a fleet plan that they would want to see. Because the cool thing about this is then this flows over here to our financially based analysis results. And I'm going to start up here under current situation. And so what this is designed to do is take all the data from the Sheriff's Department and build an average 12-year snapshot of overall fleet budget. And so we've got 70 vehicles in this analysis right here for the Sheriff's Department. The average vehicle is a 2019. The average vehicle has 80, let's call it 85,000 miles on it. And the average vehicle, again, across 70 vehicles, does 15,500 miles per year. Now, if you guys were going to go out and replace the average vehicle in the sheriff's fleet, in these 70 vehicles, it costs you right around $75,000. Now, if we go to maintenance, historically, on average, every 12 months, you guys are outlaying about $210,000 to maintain and repair these 70 vehicles. And this is everything from an engine replacement to an oil change, $210,000. Also, you guys are spending just under $220,000 to fuel those 20 vehicles in a year. Now, if you come over here to cycling comparisons, this is where the fleet plan from the other page flows through. And I'm saying across 70 vehicles, you guys should be on a 4-year cycle. The average monthly lease cost would be $1,650. And then we're going to put this all together, and bear with me. This is where everything comes together. So I'm going to start here underneath where it says fleet size here. And this is, again, historically what the Sheriff's Department has done. And so on average, you guys have acquired about eight vehicles over the past couple of years. You guys, again, pay cash or outlay budget line item for every vehicle. So if we buy 8 vehicles times $75,000, that's $600,000 per year in vehicle acquisition and funding. And one of the things that I try and do the first time I show this to somebody is be very, very conservative. I know that that number is a little low because the last thing I ever want you to think is that I'm massaging my numbers to make the analysis look good. So we bring the maintenance and fuel down from the top. And so what we're looking at is the average 12 months to acquire vehicles, fund vehicles, maintain, and then fuel these 70 sheriff's vehicles. It costs about $1 million. Now, we're going to come down here to the bottom here to where it says year 1. What we are seeing is that in the next 12 months, the Sheriff's Department either has 37 vehicles that are past optimal vehicle life cycle or going to be past optimal vehicle life cycle. So I'm recommending instead of 8 that the Sheriff's Department in the next 12 months replaces 37 vehicles. However, instead of outlaying cash for 37 vehicles, where you guys have outlaid $600,000 for 8 historically, if we lease or fund these vehicles strategically, we can get 37 vehicles for $732,000. Our maintenance expense, because newer vehicles cost less to maintain than older vehicles, is going to get cut in half, come down to $95,000. Fuel is going to come down to $190,000, and in those 37 vehicles, I figure you have about $474,000 in equity that we can use to offset that acquisition. And then years 2, 3, 4, and 5 play out exactly the same. Now, there's something that I'm not going to shy away from and I want to talk about right now. If over the next 5 years you are acquiring more vehicles in a given time than historically you used to, your acquisition expense is going to go up. In this case, about $1.3 million is what we're estimating. However, the whole idea behind this program is that we can make, with a plan, we can make this budgetable and sustainable, and we're going to offset that increased acquisition with lower maintenance, lower fuel expense, and then we're going to take advantage of resale at the right time, year over year. And so not only are we lowering, and so what I'm figuring and estimating conservatively with a plan like this, when we marry life cycle with strategic funding, with the resale of the vehicle at the right time, is that we can bring back just under $1 million back to the sheriff's department, back to the county's budget, that you guys will have to, again, I mean, we just saw a presentation about putting roads in. Questions, comments? Yes, sir.
Follow our floor plan to the T, buying cars when we tell you to buy them and whatever, their floor plan, financing, whatever their deal is, we guarantee you that you'll make money. If we follow, if the auditor and Denise here follow this plan to the T, whatever you maintenance on this schedule, do you guarantee that this actually will be, these numbers do pan out if we follow it?
So yes, and I can provide examples of how this has actually done this in real life year over year. Can I guarantee this? No, because the one thing I don't have is a magic wand or a crystal ball. So, and a good example of this, used vehicle prices. I mean, we're really, really good at estimating this stuff, and we understand what the market's going to do. However, if we take a look what happened after COVID, right? So used vehicle prices
They're still
spiked,
up.
right?
A lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you never know.
So
Is that the only variable?
no, it's not the only variable. So, but the one thing that we can do, again, this is not where we're just going to say, yeah, go do this, and then, you know, and I don't mean this to sound condescending, but close our eyes and in 5 years go, hey, what did the numbers shake out at? We're going to have an entire team working with the sheriff's department and the leadership of the county, where we're going to be able to track this stuff quarter to quarter, month to month. And this is something that we can really dial in.
Have you had a county that's said, how long have you been with Sewell yourself? Or
Me personally, a little over 2 years.
2 years?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Have you had a county in those 2 years that has followed it? Has it followed the 2-year trend?
Yes, sir. Ector County, yes.
Ector County?
Out in West
Midland?
Texas. Midland County, yes, sir.
Okay.
We've even got, we've even got smaller municipals or government agencies, Beverly Hills, next to Waco, Texas. They've been doing this with 8 of their police vehicles. Yeah.
So I've been with the dealership only a year, but before that with a different dealership. Before that, I actually had a presentation here in Hood County because I worked for American National Bank and Trust. We had over 35 counties that were in the process of doing this, plus another 40-something cities. So the program does work, and our program wasn't near as good as this program. This program is much better. It has more benefits to it, but just having a maintenance schedule, we can track that and see the auditing back to it. And also the other dealerships, nobody else has Sewell that they have, like Enterprise. I literally sell cars Enterprise every week.
Is Sewell related in any way to Carl Sewell at Dallas?
Yes, sir. They're all
Yes.
cousins.
Yeah, they're cousins.
Collins dealership out of West Texas, one we're part of, has been there for 106 years. And then his cousin in Dallas and also in Houston just joined within the last, I think, 25 years.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all cousins.
I should have asked if that was a good thing or a bad thing first.
You what? No, I bought a lot of cars from Carl
Yeah.
Sewell in Dallas, and they're, the way they maintain your car, when you drive up there, by the time you get up there, they know all about you, they know your car, they put you in a used car, you don't have to worry about when they're gonna get through it on, because they got you in a brand new Lexus, for example, so if they promise you that it's gonna be Wednesday or 3 days from now, you don't care, because you're in a brand new Lexus, so they run a real good ship, that's.
It's the same here, like, what he's talking about with the fleet team is gonna be with you. We meet quarterly with you to go over the program, go to the dashboard, make sure things are ready, start looking at your budget concerns, what are we gonna do? We need to start ordering these cars now so that they're gonna be here when you need them. Everything's done. That's the benefit of having Sewell as a dealership.
I will say, sir, that if you don't mind, one thing to kind of answer your direct question that you started with is, and this is the difference, I think something that Billy was alluding to, this is the difference between us and Enterprise. Again, remember, I'm not here to bash anybody else, but I've seen it firsthand. is I know this is maybe sticker shock because I do these all the time, right? And so it may be a leap or a pretty far jump from going from maybe buying 8 vehicles per year to fully biting off and doing 37. I do believe that that is the right move for the county, but at the end of the day, these are your vehicles. This is your citizens that are relying on you guys to make a good decision. So what I recommend is maybe we don't do all 37, but there's got to be a better place to start. And that's what we've been working with the sheriff and his team and Denise and they've got some vehicles picked out. So again, at the end of the day, my job here is to show you the data and the analytics, but we also want to put a good plan in place where, number one, you're comfortable with it and it works for the sheriff's department.
The second part of that is with Sewell, we also have a partnership with ProFed, which is their outfitter. And right now, most outfitters are running anywhere from 6 to 8 months all the way to a year and a half to get the vehicles out. We're at 8 to 10 weeks. So everybody else talking about months, we're talking about weeks. And right now, what that means is if we order vehicles and those vehicles are going to be here in 3 months, they coordinate that delivery of the equipment for that same amount of time. So once the vehicle lands on our property, which Denise and them came out to the property to view it, they have a 35,000 square foot facility that's climate control. Techs love it because they're in air conditioning all the time. But when you have a vehicle land, it's in the shop with the equipment being put on within a week on a 98% success rate right now.
Okay. Denise and Stephanie and Jonathan, they've already been out to y'all's facilities. I know we've been talking about it, but we're going to have to move along. I want you to wrap up in the next 5 minutes because I want to give the sheriff's department, they're the last item here, at least a full hour here on the deal. So Denise, do you have anything?
I have a few questions.
Let me just, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I do have a few questions on your numbers. So go to the slide right before this. Okay, so I took the blue line, that's the monthly operating cost, so
Yep.
2,266 times 12 times 3 years is 81,576. So I'm just, where does the 85.5, where's that residual amount coming from?
So the residual amount is from the total price of the vehicle, 85,500.
Yeah, but we would, if we did this, we would have paid over 3 years, 81,576.
Well, so remember, when you're taking that monthly operating cost, it includes maintenance and fuel, because what my goal is, again, is just because however you fund a vehicle, just because you put a vehicle into service, you've paid for it somehow. That's not the only cost that goes into owning an operating vehicle. There's
and
fuel
it also
maintenance,
includes
right?
the $30.
Well, yeah, but that's included here. So if you want to look at what you're actually paying for the vehicle, it would be this $1,900 times 12 times 36.
Okay, so go to the next page, the one you had there. I mean, as you mentioned, that 600,000 is about 200,000 low of what we paid in the current budget, correct? Yeah. So, and then I just was looking at the trade credit. So if you take that divided by the 37 vehicles, you're averaging about 12,824 per vehicle.
Yeah, for those 37, yeah, because some of them are, 10, 11, 12 years old for
Okay.
sure. Yeah.
And then the 732, where's that number?
Oh, right here.
The 732, that includes 37 times $30 times 12, the $30 per vehicle, right?
Yeah,
per
it
month?
includes that. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That's all I have. I just wanted to be sure I understood what those numbers represented. Thank you.
Morning. I just want to wrap this up real quick because I know we're under some time restraints. So basically, I'm not a salesman, but I have seen this presentation and I know what we're doing right now is not working. What you don't know is in the last 3 weeks, we have replaced 4 motors. We've had 4 motors go down. We've replaced 4
4 transmissions. What we've done in the past is we've taken vehicles from patrol and moved to other departments, and that's where we're spending a lot of our expenses. And that's why our maintenance costs are so high. Vehicles out off of patrol don't need to go to the departments. That's my opinion. I think this is a vital or a good option for the county to look at. And what I'd like to do next week is I've updated a lot of the miles and some things that I've emailed you. I'd like to meet with all individuals next week, go over those things, and, you know, maybe come up with a plan that we can all work together with, that will help the county and also be good stewards of the taxpayers' money as well. So, any questions from me? No?
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Very,
I
very
appreciate
good
it.
presentation. It's something really, actually, I leased a car one time, and I didn't like it, but it was a mileage deal. You know what I mean?
It works nothing like that. Again, I make that joke all the time.
I was really, I really, this has some real potential, is what I'm saying. I was talking to Steve Smith. He said that the vehicles here get the 100,000 mark after about 3 years. Is that about right?
Yes, sir. Closer to 4, actually. 4 is optimal. But step down and looking at it because of the cost of the equipment. And so my understanding is
Yeah. Okay. Thank you all very much, because like I said, I wanted to give the sheriff a full hour. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming down. Very effective.
Thank you, Judge.
And so we have it. Thank you very much. Okay, 11 o'clock. We have Sheriff and Lieutenant Gary Roberts up here to present theirs. So,
Judge, I have a point of order. I'd like to say something before we start with all the speakers, if you don't mind. Y'all can sit down for a minute if you want to. I want to thank all the law enforcement people who are here today. Thank you for coming. I appreciate your interest. And I want to put this on the record before we start. I've been approached by numerous department heads and numerous other elected officials regarding the question, what are we going to do about salaries this budget cycle? Everyone to the person says essentially the same thing. My folks work hard. They need to make more money, especially the lower tiered employees, clerks, staff, etc. I've also been approached by several elected officials urging us to raise elected officials' salaries as well. This item on the agenda just shows pay raises for Hood County Sheriff's Department, and we're going to hear about that. But not sure which commissioner put this on the agenda today, but I wanted to get this on the record if you'll bear with me for a couple of minutes. Currently, the starting pay for the Sheriff's Department in Hood County is $62,700. I will note that the starting pay for a patrol deputy in Parker County is $62,959, with a bump in 6 months and another bump in 1 year to $65,342. If you look at the starting pay, we're $259 less than Parker. But I digress. And by the way, when I took office in January 1st, 2019, the starting pay for a deputy was $42,000. This budget cycle where their pay is up to $62,700 was last year. So in my first 6 years, the judge and I are on the same cycle, and I give credit to the judge for this as well. The first 6 years we have been in office, we have gotten this commissioner's court, at least this commissioner and this county judge, have been on board to bring the salaries up by 50%. The constables have come to me and let me know they need more money. Plus, as previously discussed, pretty much every other department head and elected official in this county has asked for the same. So what are we supposed to tell them? What do we tell the constables? What do we tell the county clerk and her crew? What do we tell the district clerk and her crew? What do we tell road ops? Road ops folks who have to get up at 3 a.m. in January in the morning to go drop sand on the road or to clear the highway. What do we tell them? What do we tell the treasurer who keeps the finances together? What do we tell the folks in the tax assessor's office? What do we tell them? Because the commissioner's court is over the entire budget. I'm unsure why we're just looking at sheriff's department salaries today, other than the fact that we received a matrix from the sheriff's department proposing to raise starting pay to $72,105 per year, which is, if you do the math, is about a 14% raise. This proposed salary and attendant matrix was supplied to us just a couple of days ago by Mr. Gary Roberts, who's standing up here at the podium, for us to review and take a look at. Now, 2 days ago, just 2 days ago, we got our certified tax numbers from the appraisal district, 2 days ago. I talked to Jeff Law, the chief appraiser, and it will be mid to late next week before we get proposed no new revenue rate and voter-approved tax rate to even look at. We don't know yet. Anyway, I want to announce today that I hear every one of you. Sheriff's Department, clerk's offices, constables, other elected officials, dispatch, jail, animal control, all of you work for this county. All the county employees. And I want to point out that we can only affix a tax rate at no more than the voter-approved rate, which should be coming next week, as I stated. So we'll know at that time what the numbers we're working with. Right now, as you saw from Mr. Sabonis, and you saw the graph, and by the way, if you look at this chart, you will see that this commissioner's court for the last several years we've continually brought the tax rate down to try to offset the increase that the appraisal district's bringing in on a average home in Hood County. But I have a proposal. And here's my proposal. And I want you to quote this. I think we should give the entire county a 10% raise, including the sheriff's department and everybody else in this entire county, a 10% raise. A 10% raise for the sheriff's office would bring the starting pay up from $62,700 to $68,900. Mr. Roberts is asking for $72,000. It's a little bit less than that. But I will say that the average pay for Tarrant County, starting pay for law enforcement, is $68,325. $68,970 is more than Tarrant County's average pay if we take this 10% increase. If we can get sheriff's deputy start pay to $68,970, I rhetorically ask, would that be fair? 10% across the board would also bring the lower salaried folks up as well, because they're important in this county as well. For instance, we have...
Hey, this is a workshop where they have it up there. I've never had this.
I've got the floor. I have the floor, Judge.
This is a workshop.
Point of order. He has the floor.
To hear from the
I have the
sheriff,
floor.
not for him to give up here and give a
He
tirade
has
about this.
the right to
Let's hear
speak.
from the sheriff.
I have the floor,
Sheriff, let me-
disagree with
Judge, he
that.
has the right to
This-
speak.
If I could finish what I've got to say, and then the sheriff will have the rest of the time. 10% across the board would also bring the lower salaried folks up as well. For instance, a starting clerk coming in at $36,500. Some of these starting clerks, single mothers that can barely make ends meet, would now start at just at $40,000 for a clerk. All the other boats in the county would rise. Well, how are we going to do this, you might ask? I thought we didn't have the money, you might say. Well, we don't. We cannot legally raise the tax rate in this county enough to do all the things that we need to do. You've looked at jail expansion. You've looked at roads. Now we're looking at sheriff's pay and everything that we need to do that everybody wants us to do, that demands that we do, can't be done we have constraints. The state keeps us in a corral. We can't bring the rate up that much. So again, how are we going to do this? I say we put it to the voters. Since it will obviously be a tax rate above the voter-approved tax rate, we're going to have to call an election. I know that our auditor's heart just sank when I said that, but I say we call an election. We put it to the voters. You people out here who don't think certain folks are getting paid enough, you'll have a chance to come in here and cast your vote and tell us what you want us to do. If the majority of Hood County agrees, then everybody across the board in this county gets a raise, including the sheriffs, which we appreciate everything law enforcement here does, believe me. And I don't see how coming from 42,000 to 62,700 is defunding the police for this commissioner. I'm just about through, Judge.
Minutes, as far as I'm concerned, if you're used.
Right now, I've got the floor. Right now, gross salaries for all Hood County employees, all of them, is approximately $27,352,320, which is about 60% of our total budget. The percent to increase everybody's salary 10%, the number would be $2.74 million. I did talk to the chief appraiser, as I said, and asked him to run me some numbers. Well, what does 1 penny interpolate to is for revenue? 1 penny is about this is rough, but it's about $950,000 of revenue. So what do we need to do just to get everybody's salary up? We need 3 cents. 3 cents. So to make this 10% increase, which I propose, and I'm hoping that the judge and the other commissioners up here will agree with me, it would be really nice if they would, because that's what we're in here for today, I think. We would need to raise the tax amount about 3 cents just for that. And that means we would have to put it on a ballot. And let you people out here in the public, y'all decide what we should do. We're going to have a bond for the jail expansion. We're going to have a bond for roads, and we should have a voter-approved tax rate ballot measure, and you guys tell us if you're okay with that. There you go. Salary problem solved. Everybody's happy, right? And here's the timeline we got to deal with, and then I'll shut up.
This is enough. Can we go ahead and hear from the sheriff now?
He's almost,
He's
almost
We got
done.
to be out of here at noon.
He's almost done. Apparently, he's almost done. It's not.
Is this commissioner?
ridiculous.
Is
We
this
came up here
commissioner?
to have a workshop, not to hear you preach about. We know where you stand, Commissioner Eagle, and I want that everybody out here, I hope this is broadcast up here, when he runs for re-election here, as what he's doing, to put this up for, let the voters decide about this, for this kind of 10% increase on the thing. Boy, I'm for the Hood County employees getting a raise. I've always been and want Hood County employees to get a raise. I want to hear from the Sheriff's Department and what they put together up here, and not hear from a tirade from you.
Well, I don't want to hear a tirade from you either, Judge.
Let's get up here.
Continue.
We've already wasted 12 minutes, and I said at the beginning, we had 3 important topics up here. I want the sheriff to be able to present what they have. It's a workshop, so.
It says discuss. It says discuss in our agenda. And if you're not going to let me finish,
Are you almost
if you're
finished?
not going to let me
Not
finish,
you.
that's fine.
Public comment.
We got 3
Are you
commenters.
almost finished? Are you almost finished?
I am almost finished.
Okay.
So I'm going
Please
to,
remember this, folks. Please remember to tell your constituents when Commissioner Eagle runs again, what he's trying to do here.
well, I'm glad you're not running again. So anyway, here's the timeline. The election is November the 4th. November the 4th. August 18th is 78 days prior to the election, so we must call the election by by the 18th, and we must come up with a rate, adopt a rate by August 25th. I plan to either put this on the agenda after we get we can't do anything till we get the numbers from the appraisal district. We don't know what we're dealing with. But I would ask the auditor to put together what she proposes to be done to do a voter-approved tax rate. And by the way, we're looking to upgrade vehicles, maybe 37, and we're looking at expanding the jail. I don't see that as defunding the police. It's all yours.
Please. Sheriff, please.
And we appreciate everything you've ever done for the office and helping the law enforcement. Yeah, from when you guys came into office, and the world is going crazy, and so the prices keep going up. My deputies know that they can go elsewhere to make a lot more money, and I thought it was crazy when the nurses got a sign-on bonus and things like that. Well, now they're doing that for police officers around the country. So we're trying to just keep up in step with those guys. And I like what you're saying with the 10%, but I got to do something. Last week, I was thinking I had 2 going out next week, but I lost 1 the other day. So I'm 4 down today. On Wednesday morning, I'll be down 5 people. And we can't hire anybody else because nobody wants to come to work for that starting pay. So, Gary.
That's what it is. It is what it is, folks. We have people leaving our sheriff's department for better wages. So you don't have to like it, but that's the state of the affairs. We're competing with Tarrant County. We're competing with these other counties, with Johnson County. When they leave deputies, who are they going to hire? That's what I'm saying. When something happens, we live so close to the Metroplex. When we have an incident living so close to the Metroplex up here, we need more law enforcement, not less. I'm a real big proponent of public safety. I make no bones about that and always stood for that. But please tell us what you got here so we can educate the public.
Well, thank you, Judge. Thank you, Commissioners. For you that don't know me, my name is Lieutenant Gary Roberts. I'm a lieutenant at the Sheriff's Office. I've been in law enforcement for 20 years. I'm a 5th-generation police officer. My family's been taking care of the state for 5 generations. I know a little bit about law enforcement. I can sum it up that way. I can give you a list of credentials and things I've done in my career, but I don't think that's important. To some of your points, Commissioner Eagle, I would just like to correct you. You mentioned Tarrant County starting pay. It was not factual. The starting pay for Tarrant County Sheriff's Deputy is $74,588. I know it's easy to get on Google and look at some things, but until you contact somebody at that agency and confirm and fact check that, you're just guessing. Those things change every minute. So it's to the other employees in this county, we absolutely support you. We need every one of you. I would like to just point out that the Sheriff's Office is half the county employees. Literally, it's half support for the Sheriff's Office. And for the ones that don't, by God, we're hiring. Please come help us. We need your help. I mean, it's as simple as that. As far as how much we can raise the revenue, I completely understand math. That's not lost on me. I'm actually an educated person. What I'm saying is we've cut the tax rate down and put ourselves in this hole. Put the shovel down. Stop digging. We got to start somewhere, right? This all started in 2022. You saw the graph that Commissioner Eagle showed up and that Hilltop showed us in 2022. The last time we got significant raises, we started cutting the tax rate. And those tax cuts came on the back of the men and women in the back of this room. And that's at the cost of public safety. So it's going to be a real cheap town to live in, but it's going to get a little dangerous, right? So the money you're saving in taxes, go out and buy yourself a gun, some protection, whatever it is, because you're not going to have sheriff's deputies out there doing it. Not for that. But I'll start my presentation. And again, the goals of this are discuss the current pay metrics in November 2022 was passed. We're going to talk about lateral entry programs. We're going to talk a little bit about starting pay, but the lateral entry programs, that's honestly where we're losing candidates. Starting pay is only one metric to look at. There's a whole lot of things out there that are incentivized for law enforcement right now in this current market. And again, I've provided you guys a realistic and market-based pay matrix, at least with the sheriff's deputies. The sheriff's office feels is appropriate. And we're going to talk about the administrative pay steps. There's only 7 guys in our administrative division. That's only 7 people. But for somehow we've continued to handicap those 7 people in our agency by not applying across the board pay raises symmetrically. So we'll move through it. And again, to the 10%, that sounds amazing. We're very happy with how far you guys have come, and we want to recognize how far you guys have come. But general and overly broad pay structures and across the board pay raises do not adequately address the complex needs of a law enforcement pay scale, the current market trends, our rank structure, our tenure, our duties, or our training accomplishments. So this presentation, it hopes to provide an apples to apples comparison of base pay, overtime benefits, or the benefit of overtime, based on current market trends, standards, and we're going to use applicable industry data. This is what we talked about in 2022, the last time I was up here doing one of these. We talked about consistent pay increases. We talked about overtime comp time. We talked about doing something with holiday time, working on our personnel shortages, vehicles, incentive pay, all these things that we had on our to-do list in 2022. We've come a long way on a lot of them. There's still a lot of work to do. I'm hoping this year we do something with overtime, we do something with holiday pay. Our personnel shortages are getting better. The sheriff took some Senate bill money. We hired some extra people. We're trying to find a cheaper way to buy vehicles so we have better vehicles to get down the road in, save the county money and get us down the road in a safer manner. Incentive pay, that's something we can still work on. We can always incentivize people to come here. And the Sheriff's Office recognizes that incentive pay and benefit pay, such as longevity, certification pay, bilingual pay, retirement contributions, health insurance, other specialty pay, it all factors into your total compensation. We get that. We understand that. However, in that area, we are not any different than any other county. You can say that our retirement's very good right now, and our insurance is great right now. Other places have that where they pay for your whole family, and other places have 3-to-1 retirement, and you get to take your health insurance when you leave, and all kinds of things. So we're not going to argue incentives and all those things. We're really going to talk about what your base pay is, what is on your pay matrix, what's going to be published, and what our deputies are going to see to either stay or leave, or for other people to come here. It's also, this is what I think is lost on a lot of people. It's very important to recognize when you're comparing law enforcement services to other agencies, whether it be municipal, county-based, that Hood County is very unique. And we're unique in the fact that most of our residents in Hood County do not live in a city. The one city here, Granbury, I'll say the one city with a full-time police department is Granbury PD. We have more people that live outside the city of Granbury in our county than we have live in it. That's very different than Tarrant County, Parker County, Johnson County. That's what makes us unique. The population lives outside the cities in our county. If you look at that as a percentage, Hood County, like I said, we've got one other municipal agency, it's GPD. 83% of our residents live outside of Granbury. Parker County has 6 municipal agencies with a full-time police force. That's only 47% of their population. That puts them at 60 to 70,000. Johnson County has 10 municipal agencies that have full-time sworn law enforcement. That puts their population 39% of that the county responds to calls for. Tarrant County has 41 municipal agencies that respond to calls for service. And Commissioner Eagle, I'll give you a copy of this. It's nothing secret. I hate for you to have to write everything down if you're trying to make notes. I'll get you a copy of this. That's 30% of Tarrant County, the 2.1 million people in Tarrant County. 3% of that's about 65,000 people. We're online for the services we provide, the number of citizens we respond to calls to was all of these counties. I just like everybody to understand that it doesn't matter what the population is, it doesn't matter how many deputies they have, everybody's agency is made up different. Tarrant County, most of our deputies are in the courthouse, right? They work the courts. There's very few out on patrol when you look at that agency as a whole. But all these equate to about 60 to 70,000 residents that a sheriff's office patrol function is taking care of. CID patrol, that's what we're talking about. So again, like I said, we're going to talk about the current compensation structure. I didn't make these numbers up. I got them from somebody directly connected with the department. I verified each of these with the department. I didn't get them off the internet, but this is our current pay step. It starts at a deputy, 62.7. And it maxes out with our chief deputy on a 3 years, or step 3, year 3, however you want to say it, $99,000. So there's a 37,000-ish difference in our whole pay scale. This is the pay scale that was approved in November of 2022. Again, this had to happen in November 2022 because in October, or before October during budget talks, we said, hey, this is going to be a problem. We did nothing, we gambled, and 8 people left our agency. So it had to come mid-budget year to get raises and get people back here. So that's why November 2022 is important, because we gambled last time and we lost, and we had to correct it and mess up our budget. We're trying not to get to that this year. I wish I didn't have to go any further than this, because I think it's pretty self-explanatory. You can look at any of these numbers across here and just see everywhere a Hood County Sheriff's Office employee tops out at 72, 77, 84, 88, 92, 99, wherever it is, GPD starts significantly higher than that. Our max, our top out deputy is still $1,000 less than where GPD starts at. We're in the same county, folks, the same county. They're just down the street. We get along great with GPD. Our officers and deputies work together. They're doing the same job. They're backing up each other on calls. How do we explain the difference that one guy's maxed out at 72,000, another guy's at 109 on the same call for service in the same city, the same county? It just doesn't make sense. I shouldn't have to go any farther than that. Like I said, everybody should be able to look at that and say, something's off. Something's not right. So we'll talk about November 2022 again, and our pay steps now. This is a chart showing how much our pay steps have increased since November of 2022. That's $2,700 for our deputy rank, $2,700 for corporals, $2,700 for investigator, $2,700 for sergeant. Then somehow you get to this lieutenant step. The first step went up $200, the second step went up $200, the third step $700, so I put $700 on here. The captain's step has not changed since 2022, and the chief deputy has gone down $800. So our one we approved in 2022, that step was $99,800, and today that step is $99,000. I don't know how we went backwards, but that's concerning to us at least. And to put that $2,700 in perspective, that's after taxes, retirement, all the stuff that comes out of your check, it's about $36 take-home pay, a paycheck per year for those deputies. So since 2022, their check each year has gone up $36 take-home pay. That's what it comes out to. Guys that wear a gun and a vest to go to work. Put it to you another way, the average increase for all the people around us, they've gone up 61% more than we have since November 2022. 61% more than Hood County has. Like I said, you got to put the shovel down at some point. We got to dig ourselves out of the hole. Put a ladder, something. You can use the numbers yourselves. Granbury PD has made some substantial progress. Tarrant County the same way. Even Erath County and Pelican County are higher than us when it comes to progress since 2022. This is where we lose people. So I know we've been a lot of talk surrounding starting pay and what it is and this and that. In law enforcement, for those that don't know, you can take your experience as a police officer or a deputy or whatever it is, and you can transfer that experience and get credit for that experience and go into another agency. That's where our veterans, that's why I'm fearful we're going to lose our veteran deputies. So if I have 10 years here or 10 years anywhere, I can go to another agency and get credit for that 10 years of service and walk in the door at somewhere like Weatherford PD with 10 years on duty from Hood County and walk in the door over there at $95,000. It's just down the street. Johnson County, I can go over there and make $89,000 if I'm a 10-year deputy. You know, Stephenville, it's just barely more than us, a few $100, but I'm told they're getting 18% raises this year. That's very much of a threat to us for losing people. So, and the reason these numbers are different, some say 12, some say 6, 10, it's not that I cherry pick the numbers, it's just those were the applicable steps because our matrix is not always the same as their matrix. So I had to say, if, you know, Tarrant County, you can only lateral in at 6, they don't give you credit after 6. So I had to say, hey, what's our 6-year guy make? That's what I had to do. Those why those numbers are different. GPD, you can only lateral in 5 years, so you can only start at 75. Our 5-year guy makes 67.5. The top out, like you saw, I think it was 109,000 or something like that at GPD. So you have a lot more room to grow. But 72.3 is as high as we go. This is where we're going to lose people. They can go down the street and make 12 grand more. This is what I think is important to recognize. Like I said, you got to break up by population. And so what I did in North Central Texas, there's only so many agencies, whether it be cities, counties, however you want to look at it. You factor out all the cities out of those counties and get their numbers down to what they're actually sheriff's office taking out of. I feel like this is the fairest matrix you can use, because I feel like this is truly how many residents do sheriff's departments respond to, or sheriff's offices respond to, based on population. And when you get down to the actual population for that county, this is what it comes down to. Or that city, that's what it comes down to. So everywhere in North Central Texas that has a population between 50,000 and 80,000 that their agency, whether it be city or county, responds to, I put on this chart. The average starting pay difference in our starting pay and all the agencies in North Central Texas, $13,000. The top out pay, again, as you go through the years and you get credit and time for service and experience and all the things, is $25,000. That's a huge problem for us, because all these places that I use are driving distance. I don't have to go to anywhere else. These are all somewhere that I could still live in Granbury, Texas, or Hood County, Texas, and go to work somewhere close by. I used somewhere that was in driving distance. Now, the next chart, Commissioner Andrews, we met on Monday. You provided some agencies on here. And I went to work with the sheet that you gave me right here. And, you told me right up front that you weren't sure how accurate these were, and you weren't completely 100% on those. So I went and I verified the starting pay, and then I went and I did the top end on those also. And the ones that I couldn't, I'll be honest, there's about 300 that didn't respond back to me. And so I just used the number you had on here. I use it on the bottom end, I use it on the top end. Now, I think that we've had conversations that we disagree on what the matrix is or what the metric is for who we compare ourselves to. We've had those conversations. And I listed all the ones that you've used up there. I'll be honest. I wish we could if you want to compare us to Arlington PD, I'll take it. Let's sign up for that pay scale and approve it and pass it, and let's be done. On your list, you had Arlington PD starting at 65,000. They actually started at 85,304. They top out at $108,000. If Arlington PD is who you want us to be, sign us up. But I'll be honest, I don't think that's fair. I don't think it is. I think that was an oversight. I don't think it's fair to compare us to places like Schleicher County. They have 4 deputies. Grimes County, and that, of course, Schleicher's in West Texas. Grimes, that's down by Houston. They have 9 deputies. You have Jack County on here. They've got 14 deputies. You've got Harris County, Galveston. None of those are in driving distance. None of us are moving our entire family down there. I don't know how relevant they are, but even using the numbers you gave me on Monday, with the right numbers on there and doing the top end, $4,000 underpaid right now today before raises come in October 1, and it's $8,000 on the top end. And like Commissioner Eagle said, I think there's a happy medium somewhere in the middle. And so what I did is I looked at what is the middle? What is the middle between Commissioner Andrews and me? And this talks about our administrative steps. I kind of jumped ahead a little bit, but we'll just stay with where I'm at now. So Commissioner Andrews, you're at 4,000 underpaid on the starting with the numbers you gave me, the agencies you gave me, and 8,000 on the top end. I'm saying the problem is bigger than that. I'm saying it's 13,000 starting and it's 25,000 on the top end. Can we meet in the middle on it? Can we call it 8.5 at the beginning and 16.5 at the end? And in the middle number, I guess that's 12 for the mid step. Is that doable? Can we shake hands and have a plan?
Like I told you the other day, we are, and I understand your plight, and I think that it's very fair to say that I have worked closely with you guys
I've given you
to
credit
try
many
to
times for that.
improve this thing greatly.
100%, you're right.
And I'm getting torn up at defunding the police, and I don't care anything about law enforcement, and I resent that. I stand behind you guys. I am very much behind you guys, but I'm constrained. We can go up 838,000, is that?
You put us in that boat, is what I'm saying. The Commissioners Court put us in that boat.
But Gary, let me go with this, okay? The average salary in Hood County is $45,000. The average household income is $86,000. How much can we go to that well? that there has to be, my job is to balance somewhere between the taxpayers and making sure that you guys are paid as appropriately and correctly as we can get.
I use your numbers. Can we meet in the middle? It's a simple question.
I don't know, what is it going to cost us, Gary? Is it possible for us to do this? I kind of like the idea over here. I believe that the taxpayers around here are very supportive.
Well, then tell the guys in the back of the room that showed up, the men and women back here, that, hey, we're going to put it to commissioner vote.
Speakers.
Yeah.
I'd have to speak, wait a minute.
That's why they're here. They want to know what the plan, what their family going to do October 1. That's what they want to know. They want to know if they're going to stay, if they want to go. That's why they're here. They're not on, they're burning comp time, so it helps the county because they're here burning comp time, right? They're not on duty. They just want to know.
I can't give you this answer. It takes, we got to sit down and math some stuff
Is it
out.
unreasonable to meet me halfway using your numbers and my numbers?
I don't know, Gary. What is an impact to the budget? We've added, what, $200,000 for Axon, somewhere in that ballpark, to try to improve your
And to that note,
job.
yes, Axon is
We're
huge for us.
looking at buying new vehicles to try to make you guys safer.
Yes.
Anytime there's a grant that comes up for bulletproof armor, a ballistic glass in the trucks, we're doing these things. There are not things that the sheriff's office is bringing to this court that we're saying no.
But I understand that, and I'm very appreciative of it. I would be careful using the measure of working vehicles as a successful funding of law enforcement. I think that's a basic given need for all law enforcement. I think we're trying to do to give us better vehicles and save money. And on the Axon deal, yes, it costs $200,000. But here's how we looked at it. We could come here and ask for 4 deputies, but we have 3 openings now, and we got 3 more leaving. What good's it going to do to ask us for 4 deputies? So let's see if there's some technology out there that costs a little less than that are going to support and make the burden less on the ones that do stay. That's us trying to work with you guys. So it's not like we're in here demanding a whole bunch of things. We're trying to be reasonable. I'm saying let's meet halfway. I like your numbers, Kevin. Let's meet halfway.
Matt, can I ask something? What is you're saying we got 5 that have left last year, 6 maybe? What were the reasons for their departure? Could you inform us about, was it strictly money?
From my recollection, in 2022, yes, most of them left for money. They went to higher pay agencies.
Well, my understanding is 2 of them were terminated.
It's possible.
So that gets it down to 3 or 4.
Is that the metric we want to use, who leaves? Is that how we know if we're paying well? If we're paying adequate, if they stay or not? Is that the metric, Commissioner Eagle?
I don't argue with you. Go ahead. Finish your...
Is that the metric that you want to use?
Well, that's
If they're staying, then we're paying well enough.
I think that pay is one component of a job.
You're correct.
And there's a lot of other components. And all I'm asking is that you're using the factor that there's 6 less officers now than there were at the start of the budget cycle. You're implying that it's all due to money.
No, I'm saying we were 3 down because we don't pay enough to hire 3 open positions. And we have 3 more that are leaving that are going to get more money.
So what else can I offer you besides a 10% solution? I've thrown it on the table.
Sit down and look at halfway what me and Commissioner Andrews came down to, and let's meet in the middle. I'm not trying to be unreasonable, guys, and all.
Do you know what that impact is?
I'd have to do. I did this math all week trying to get a hold of these people, so I have not added the whole numbers up. But I'm going to say it's probably 700, 800, $1 million. It's probably something like that.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. The bottom of the barrel, the 838,000 is all that I've got in that well.
Right.
And that's with us raising taxes.
And when I'm saying we've cut taxes,
103.5%. That's maxed it out. Anything over that, we have to have an election to get. The numbers that you're saying, I'm saying we have to have an election. And that's not taking care of another soul in this county.
That doesn't include any other raises for any other employee.
well, I think we can also commit to, hey, we can't solve this problem overnight. This is what we did in 2022. It wasn't going to fix it all in 2022. We knew that. We just stopped working on it. We just stopped working on it.
I mean, and I resent that a little bit too, because can you go back to slide 13 where you're showing what we've changed since November of 22?
How many speakers are there, Judge?
So let me make this one, because I'm kind of on something here.
I think there's 3.
I'm trying.
One more. There it is. That's from November of 22. That number from October of 22, that Hood County SO down there, October of 22, the month before, The difference in that number is $11,700.
And that's because you gambled and lost.
I'm trying to tell you that we're making efforts, Gary. I look at those agencies around us and I try to see if we can get somewhere competitive with them.
And if we went October 1 on all those other places, they'd be
not
different too.
competitive with them. I think that our starting salaries, okay, so you brought up that it needs to be higher on the top end. And I even told you, what we've been dealing with, what we've been trying to get in our matrix is higher on the top end. It is giving those people a little bit more increase.
But we haven't done that. The 7 administrative steps have gone up $700. The one captain spot's gone up 0, and the chief deputy step's gone down $800. How is that working on the top end?
So,
but let me finish this, and there's a discussion we can sit here and I'll blow through the rest of this. I'm about 3/4 of the way done. I know we'll have another meeting between now and the end of all this, but this is the administrative steps like we're talking about. On average, just taking Hood, Parker, Johnson, and Granbury, the average of those and their administrative ranks is $32,000. That's what I'm talking about, the disparity in rank. And in this climate, you can go in another agency as a lieutenant, as a sergeant, as a captain. Our chief deputy and our captain can go work as a chief of police somewhere if they wanted to. Those opportunities are out there. But in our administrative steps, we're $32,000 under the mark. That's what I'm talking about. If it stays this way, we're gonna lose people. We've lost 8 before. We got most of those guys back. I'll be honest. We got, I think, 5 or 6 of them, maybe 7 of them even back. But there's just so many opportunities out there. I've already said some of this stuff that 3 openings, 3 more leaving. The industry standard for law enforcement is overtime. That's another thing we're working on. And I would just, to help out, I would even meet you halfway on overtime. We're saying 200,000. We haven't got overtime in the last 2 years. Can we meet it in the middle at 100? I mean, we're agreeable to it. We just want somebody to come to the table and get this fixed. And, the problem with doing some of these numbers and meeting in the middle is these are this year's numbers. In October 1, they're going to jump up 5 or 10% of all the people around us. So we're arguing for like today's numbers. We have to take into consideration all the people around us. They're going to jump up more in October. That's what we have to deal with. So not only are we fighting that we're behind the curve, we're going to be farther behind the curve if we don't take a bigger bite out of the pie come October, because everywhere around us is going to go up again. So we're arguing about what it is right now. We don't even know how bad it's going to be in October. And that's why the guys are here today, to hear what's going to happen, and they can make their own decisions. The thing with overtime, 90% of our guys, they do what every other working American does. When inflation gets high and groceries are expensive, they go out and they get a second job. They got to have more income, right? Or they got to cut back spending, right? Can't always cut back spending because rent's $2,500 these days. It's insane. But you got to get a second job. Well, our guys, almost 90% of our deputies on their days off are not home with their families and decompressing and getting stress relief. They're out working another job. They drive to Fort Worth, they drive to Dallas, they drive to the Metroplex, and they get paid $50, $60, $75 an hour to do that. When they get called into work for the shipping, sure, they get called in to somebody had to go home because they got hurt or whatever it is, or they have training. They can't go to their extra jobs. They can't go to their secondary employment. It takes money out of their pocket to come to this agency and protect these citizens of this county because they have to work for free. They don't get overtime. They get comp time. Comp time that they can't take off because we're not staffed at a well enough level. So we're not only not paying them when they're here, we're taking them away from their second job where they can't provide for their family. That's the totality of the situation. And when they're here working for us and it's after 86 hours, we're just giving them IOU, basically using them like a credit card that we paid off when they quit and leave and they have enough of it. That's the reality of the situation. I think you guys are coming on board with overtime. I really hope that y'all are.
Do you know where we stand about kind of rough on the comp time?
I think it's like 140 to pay it off right now.
I'm sorry?
I think it's about 100. What is it?
About 157.
157 to pay it off right now, but with comp time, you have to understand that's a floating number because we didn't accumulate that in one calendar year or one fiscal year. That's accumulated over years, and then some people take it off. It's always a moving target. I mean, that's just a metric that, and you have to look at the reason we say 200,000 in overtime is because we're not in control of Mother Nature. We don't know if there's going to be a flood like Central Texas is dealing with. We don't know if there's going to be another tornado. We don't know if 10 people are going to leave and have to have a whole bunch of people work over. We're not in control of that. But what we didn't want to do is undersell it, and it looked like we couldn't manage our budget, right? If we come in here and say we need, this much for overtime, we go way over, then it looks like we don't know what we're doing, right? So we're not in control of Mother Nature. We're not going to try to spend $200,000. We're not going to work our guys on the ground if we don't have to. They need time off. They need to decompress.
I agree with you.
So that's where we came up with that figure, because we're not in control of natural disasters, flooding. And I don't know if FEMA reimburses any of that. You can get into that whole federal stipend money and all that stuff. But that's where we came up with the number.
So I would like to throw into the equation that I started off with. You know, if we're going to have to order an election for this, we might as well pay catch them up.
It's not, I mean, according to the June report
Yeah, I
that
was
we
looking
got
at the
from.
wrong page.
Yeah, it's
187.
almost 200,000. It's
Okay, 200 hours,
Unless it's come down.
if you order an
people
election,
taking
we get everybody caught up. And I don't know what else to tell you from this seat right here. I've thrown a suggestion onto the table. For what y'all want, we're going to go past the voter approved rate. So we might as well get everybody taken care of, and the whole county. I stand with that. And the overtime, let's catch them up. Comp time, let's catch them up, and let's get this thing done where we can start fresh, maybe in October, and get everybody hopefully on the same page. And one thing I will make a note of, it's not exactly fair, because I've talked to lots of sheriff's departments, to compare with the police department, and here's why. The city of Granbury gets its revenue, most of its revenue comes from sales tax. They get their revenue from sales tax. They have a different base from which to work. We get the majority, the county gets the majority of its revenue from people, from the people who own homes. So we got a different, and you know this, you can look at sheriff's departments, like I talked to my counterpoint in Parker County, a commissioner, and they can't compete with Weatherford. They can't compete with the city of Weatherford. But anyway, I'm just making that point that it's really, if you want to compare a sheriff's department to sheriff's department, then let's get there.
Well, Commissioner Andrews had PDs on here so I felt we were okay to use PDs also. And I'm not arguing the sales tax and where the tax base come from. What I'm saying is we have plenty of money to pay for it. We put ourselves in this hole by cutting taxes so low. That's what happened. Where you can talk, it's a sales tax problem. It's not a revenue problem. We created the revenue problem, right? That's what happened.
We are restricted by the government and by the state to 3.5%. So there is some of that. So
What you're calling creating the problem.
Cutting taxes so low that we can't do this.
This is coming off of the taxpayer's back. That's the part that gets problematic for me. Every dollar that goes into somebody's pocket has to come out of somebody else's.
I own property too. I know how taxes work. I completely understand it.
I understand that.
I'm a property owner.
But we're right now, and these are the things that I'm dealing with. And I hate that this is so antagonistic, because I'm trying to do everything I can. I'm on your side. I want you guys to understand I 100% support you. I value you. Thank you for what you do. That is apparently not coming through, because in this situation, it's antagonistic, and it doesn't need to be. This, again, this is going to our, just one second here. The average salary in this county is $45,000. Our starting salary is 150% of that. That is what I have to balance. That's what I have to look at, because it matters to the taxpayer too. All right, I'm done.
I'll yield the rest of my time. I've got maybe 10 more slides, so I'll yield the rest of my time to people that showed up today to sit through this.
We do have 3 speakers. Stick around here. Let me just tell you what the reality is, though. The reality is that our younger our sheriff's deputies here, they're looking at how much money they can make. And when you look at these other comparisons that brought out here, we're going to be back in that same situation we were in November of 2022, when we lost 8 deputies because of the wages being so low. It is what it is. If the officers can go get higher pay, they're going to leave to get a higher I I don't think there's any employee of Hood County that doesn't think I don't stand up for our people. The IT department, I stood up for the IT department. I stand up for every one of the employees and every one of the departments to get wages when I first took office, about the clerks and the mothers that couldn't even rent an apartment here because their salaries were so low. But it is what it is, folks. And we have to keep our people here. The difference is about some of us when we go to work. When we go to work, we're not putting our life on the line either. We don't have to be available 24/7. And every time they go to work, you have a possibility of not making it home that evening. That's just the way it is. So talking about everybody else, I haven't come out with my budget yet, and we have reduced it. And, you know, keep reducing the property values. I pay property taxes too. I'm not ignorant here. I'd like for my property taxes to go down, but there is a balancing act. I do want people to be safe here in this community too, and that safety is a big factor too. But we have a speaker. Kenneth Copeland is the first speaker to come up here. Mr. Copeland.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you, Commissioners. I just wanted to really quickly tell you that I do have a background in this. My dad was a police officer when I was growing up. I know what it's like to have a father that's working shift work and struggling not to deal with all the stuff he deals with on the job and his home and his family. Fortunately, his faith helped us a lot through those times. I, like many young people, wanted to follow my father's career. I wanted to be a police officer. I went to school as a criminal justice major, got out, worked a very short time in law enforcement. I can tell you, when you get a call of a 6'2", 260-pound man with a shotgun that just shot his wife, and you're going on that call, things get real. You're trying to decide if you're going to have to kill someone or are you going to get killed. You don't know. Sheriff's deputies are dealing with that every day. I wish everybody could get that 10% raise, but the fact is what they're doing every day is different than a clerk over in one of the offices. It's just different. When I went into the profession, I worked for the federal government for right at 40 years. All of that was in safety. 12 years of that, I was enforcing regulations on the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. But 28 of years of that, I was working for the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and was overseeing grants and funds that were going to law enforcement agencies to improve traffic safety and to run traffic safety campaigns. You hear click it, ticket, don't drink and drive. A lot of that money was coming from federal funds that I was helping to administer to the states. I don't think that you can really talk about what law enforcement does and compare it to other people, because it's really about saving lives. When it comes down to it, they're the ones that's going to be called on. I live in Bentwater, and I've made calls to the sheriff's office on what would be considered a low call priority. Unfortunately, they don't make it to it. They don't have the time because they're running for higher priority calls. Do you have any clue how long it takes to process one drunk driver on a Friday night? About 4 hours. So if you get an officer who goes out there and makes an arrest for drunk driving, you're taking that officer off the road for 4 hours, and he's not available to respond to any other calls. What if you get 2 drunk drivers? What you do is you eventually run yourself out of officers for other calls. So it's really about having availability to officers. When you get these guys that are leaving because of pay, other officers have to be called in to cover those shifts. Y'all know I've been in here and testified about y'all's refusal to pay the comp time. And I'm hearing today that there's discussion about making a change on that. Because what you've got is you've got officers that are just loaded down with leave, through their annual leave and through their comp time. And quite frankly, they probably could care less if they're having to come into work for comp time. If they want to come into work, they want to be paid overtime so that they can help support their family with that money. So really, I'm here just to say we've got to figure out a way that we've got enough officers on the road so that when a call goes out, especially a high priority call, somebody being assaulted, somebody being murdered, a severe crash, we've got to make sure that we've got deputies that are in the queue, ready to go, and have enough of them out there to answer those calls, because who is going to take the responsibility for that person that dies or is severely injured because a deputy is not available? Who is that person? Is that the sheriff's office because he don't have enough people? Is it the deputy because he's tied up with another call that he can't leave? He can't just say, oh, sorry, drunk, I got another call. There's somebody beating somebody up down the road. I'm going to have to go ahead, hop in your car. I'll check you later. I got to go take care of this fight. We can't do that. We've got to make sure that we've got the adequate resources to address each and every one of them. It's a fact of life. And I want myself and every other citizen in Hood County to know that when they call upon the law enforcement agency in their county, that those guys are going to be prepared, available, and have the equipment they need to respond to that call. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next is John Hattenbach.
Hottenbach, sir.
Hattenbach.
Yes, sir. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is John Hottenbach. I am a retired chemist, last working at Saychem Inc. in Cleburne. I'm here against raising the funds for the sheriffs. I have one caveat, though. I would agree to paying overtime. I've worked at probably 4 to 5 different industrial jobs in my life, and several of those had it from time and a half, even up to 2% or 2 times overtime. I don't have a problem paying that and make sure that funds are available through whatever means, sir, that we have to go about trying to get the funds for that. I'm okay with that. The attitude I heard from you, sir, 10 years in the military, worked in multiple jobs as a supervisor. You sound like a Gen Z that just wants to get his stuff right now and throw in a fit. Your attitude seems like you've forgotten what your mission's about. Your mission's about us, the taxpayer, protect and serve. I don't hear that heart in you. So when y'all make those decisions, I think y'all need to remember that part of the reasons why they may not be getting people hired is the attitude of the leader or the leaders. And sir, I voted for you multiple times. I have. But it seems like y'all have forgotten that y'all are here to protect and serve. I'm not hearing that. I had an incident earlier this week, and this isn't the first time I've had this kind of incident with the Sheriff's Department specifically. Earlier this week, I had an issue. Actually, it started back in May. It culminated and finished at the first of this week. And I was told basically the perp in my situation couldn't be reached, so we're just going to close the case. How does that sound like y'all are protecting and serving? You don't. And I'm willing to talk to whoever offline after this meeting and give y'all specifics. If the attitude of the leaders are correct, you'll have people following. I'll give you a quick example because I know my time's running out. President Trump comes in office. We have a boom of people joining the military. Why? Because they trust his leadership. All branches of service. Same thing has to happen with y'all. Part of it, you need to look inside and see if there's something you're not doing that will attract people. It's not just about the money. I'm the guy that pays it. Now, God bless, thank God. I'm blessed. I have my retirement, I have my VA benefits, and I have my Social Security. I'm blessed. My mother-in-law, she has just Social Security. So everything you're talking about, we need to pay all this money up for the taxes to get them raised again, she's the one that's struggling. I'm not. She is. You have to keep that in mind. I know it, comparing all these others, yes. I know it sounds like you're not getting treated right because looking all around the county, but you have to look at maybe some of the issue is the leadership. If you have the right leadership, the people will follow. And I'm not meaning to try to downgrade you at all, sir. But I just want y'all to keep that in mind. Y'all are working for us. Let's get it right. That's all I have, sir.
One more speaker.
Yes, sir.
Next speaker, is it Mike Dunn?
Thank y'all for your time today. I'm a 3-year resident of Hood County. I retired 35 years out of law enforcement, rose up to command patrol division leader, spent my last 8 years in training and recruitment. Here's one angle y'all have not looked at. Nationwide, and this is what I did for a living. The first year to hire one officer, from the time you start the hiring process until 9 to 12 months later down the road, you're at least at a minimum of $100,000 in there to get that officer up to that point trained. We were at about 140 where we were at. The national average is anywhere from $100,000 to $245,000 to get that officer out on the street where he's working by himself. So every time you lose, he said he's getting ready to be down 5 officers. That's $500,000 right there. And we're not going to see any product or those guys out on the street for 9 to 12 months. I was a headhunter. What I did, I looked for those 2 to 10-year veterans, and I went in there and I hit them with the money, and I filled my spots like that. 1 to 2% of the people that even apply for the job are even qualified and make it to the point of even getting hired. Now I'm going to throw you real quickly to keep, because I know y'all are on a timer. Go to risk management. 20 years ago, risk management was we went to a lot of calls on a high frequency, but it was considered low risk. We still had the shooters and stuff, but in today's environment, every call, every encounter with a citizen is high frequency, high risk because of social media, which means lawsuits. Even if they're settled out of court, you're still paying attorney fees, you're making your settlement and your non-disclosure statements that you're there. What happens in the PD, when you get your officers, you spend $100,000 to train them, and I steal them to another department 2 to 10 years down the road, you end up with a very young workforce. You lose all your senior officers. They're not on the street to keep the new ones in line to teach them to not make, because a little mistake can cost you $2 or $3 million in a lawsuit. And the reason for that is because your tenured officers that are there on scene to tell them, hey, don't do this. This is dumb. This is stupid. You have to retain the officers you have, because what happens is when those senior officers leave, you have nobody else left, and all he can do, the only option he has is to take a 2 or 3 year officer and promote him to a corporal or a sergeant or a lieutenant, and they're not experienced enough to be in there to make those decisions that are going to cost you money. So in the long run, you're looking at how much you're going to give them, but look how much it can cost you if you don't. I mean, you're losing 5 and you might go up to 8. That's $800,000 right there that would have covered more than what they're asking for, which what they're asking for. And I understand the tax basis. I come from Southlake, a very wealthy community to work in. So. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. With that,